fight. Bubble does go down, but it's answered by Singularity. Enemy already low. Excedrin could be going down right now. Lee is at a single tick of HP, but still has this Peacekeeper out in the bubble fight. Finds 90, finally goes down, and Cruisen is forced to disengage. Excedrin, despite their practice, have gone down to Vizio.
Excedrin eliminated. Now Vizio coming up actually from behind. They're third partying this one. They were not the team that started this one off. Now Blitz is immediately pressured back. They're going to be forced to utilize that for now, but this is still such a good move for Vizio as they've already lost Yams down there. And as the Valve takes to the sky, the shots will not find their way through, but Vizio has laid out the KP that they need, and more appropriately, the pressure to give them this high ground.
A really smart move from them to go down to the south as well, when so many teams are focused on moving up, on getting up to trials. Vizio are the ones that take advantage of these choke points where people tend to clash around, say, Countdown in our very first game. It looks really good for them, and it was a very clean wipe. Because they were able to third party, they put themselves at no risk, they get a bunch of loot, and now it's up to them as to how they want to play, because at this point, now they're stuck in the south just like everyone else.
Something that I'm going to really enjoy looking at for pretty much the entire season is how Vizio on this roster, the Void, compares to the W Vizio that we saw last season, right? And we know the older Vizio roster was crucially well known for their ability to play around high-profile areas, especially kind of early on, more of those kind of core god spots, and then taking advantageous angles to accelerate themselves into great positions once those zones closed in. Already right off the bat, it looks like Void is stemming themselves away from any kind of central pace of action to source out some kills. Meanwhile, Intel, much the same. Also on the hot seat here, just eliminating intelligence.
They decided that they were a little bit too close in name, not wanting to play around with that anymore. It was so wild to see Intel taking out INT. I forget who it was who fell last, but it's a good start for all of our partnered squads. Well, with the exception of Excedrin, who did go down to another partnered squad, so we can sort of forgive it. It's been mostly these guys that are collecting the kills, and largely outside of zone as well, which is exactly what we were hoping for when thinking about how teams would take the most advantage of the different pace of games when we get into open nights. An interesting route from Intel as well, going through the open ground and through the caves up into Skyhook would normally put them at risk, but notice that nobody's gatekeeping this.
No, it looks like everyone has kind of put them directly into the Skyhook area. Now, this one's going to be a deep pull up towards that northwestern area, and we know for a fact that there's kind of that open hillside with a bit of the fissure and some of the kind of fragmented trenches that exist here on World's Edge. Noticeably, there is only one team that is currently holding that position. The new Razer, new Nerf roster. Help me out.
I think it was Razer.
We got
That's who I saw.
Sung and the crew from Neanderthals who came out to make... I'm losing my mind here. The OA roster.
Vizio?
Right? No, that couldn't have been Vizio.
No, Sung is on Vizio, though.
There's no way Vizio rotated all the way up there, then. How? I'm losing my mind.
I saw Razer up there.
Okay. I'm second guessing myself way too much in the heat of a new season. If it's Razer and my brain said Razer first, then it's probably Razer. Okay,
yeah.
Razer taking the outside position, and that's one that I really like to look at because it allows for transition. You don't get clustered in the buildings. There you go. Wrap it up, neat little bow.
It was beautiful. It was amazing. Please, though, talk to me about what on earth is going on here. Shenanigans, though, have whiffed out the Octane, Watson, and Rampart with the bow check. I mean, this looks a lot like my games, but mostly because I'm the person playing this. It's not what I'm used to seeing on the competitive stage.
And I, at this current point, can't offer you a word of advice in terms of kind of trying to figure out why it could work. You can see how heavily split this roster is. Now, granted, Intel has positioned themselves into multiple areas here, but already you can be seeing shots laid down and a great flatline beam there to eliminate Hihu, or Hiu Games.
I think they already found another knock as well, so I'm going to call it 2 out of 3 down, and just like that, 3 out of 3 Shenanigans. As soon as we ended up catching him, end up going down. I'll miss them, but I'll look forward to their compositions in the next game. For right now, Vizio actually started to get involved with that fight, firing all the way over from Countdown, and it looks like they attracted a little bit of attention in close quarters. Blitz pushing out now, might be able to find a few shots onto Intel, but I wouldn't expect these teams to commit to a full-on fight between each other.
Now, Intel here, they were kind of coming up slow through that open area. Down towards the south, we had a bit of a cluster between RCO as they were coming off the back end of their recent kind of fight there, which was just against Excedrin that led to their downfall. Now, for Intel, they are kind of split in terms of attention here. They've actually pulled back towards the Countdown area, and this might be directly Vizio. You can see missiles down, ordnance thrown. I love the angle Mooney is taking here, but perfect. Bubble down, quick redeploy,
Oh, no!
but a beam to be found. Just a few shots will do it. Can't quite line it up.
Oh my lord, after finding Flesh, I was sure that we were going to see a Valkyrie shot out of the sky. The version on 2 HP has managed to survive, carrying Vizio to safety inside these buildings. And it's so ridiculously important that they were able to make this journey, because now they're set up in the exact spot that so many other teams coming from the south would envy.
Right, you want to be right outside of that cave, able to hold a little bit of that entrance there to put damage down. Meanwhile, you got the actual dexterity roster pressured on the opposite side of the Skyhook area. Granted, John Deere 790 compact 4x4 down here, going to be throwing in some repairs to the truck on the side.
Seems like they're we're almost able to fully repair, but not quite. Finding another down due nerf. And Messiah coming around the side, a glorious facial hair and all, is going to try and finish off his villain arc by throwing in a few arc stars. I don't see any cracks coming through just yet, though. So Nerf may have been bamboozled a little bit. We'll see if they can find those last few remaining members.
Found one. Already Flesh to be had here. Turns with that Havoc, and the Turbocharger should be able to finish the job. The missiles may do the damage necessary. No, it's going to put that onto a stun there, but not quite the Nops in their entirety just yet. Hidden right behind the back end of that wheel. Meanwhile, Give No Respect officially eliminated from the side. I believe that was a separate squad that Nerf were able to pick off. Just one member left remaining.
Nicely done as well for Nerf. I mean, every kill point we know matters so much. And when we look at the scores at the start, it doesn't seem like the 1 point is going to be the deciding factor, but more often than not, you can see that play out. A little bit of loot shenanigans, but Intel will be making their way up as well. Seems like they've encountered a little bit of trouble with a fight inside the building, and with no Caustic on their team, these inter-building fights do come at a much higher risk than they would otherwise.
Granted, I'm not getting a good read on who's exactly there. It looks like it's just the single Caustic, and yeah, as soon as we pick it up there, a quick beam and a half there with the flatline from James Fearless is one additional squad eliminated here, bringing us down to 13 remaining. And it's not even a full 13. Look at that, 30 players left alive.
I was gonna say, it feels like it's been way too bloody of a game to still have 13 teams up. That it means that there's a lot of upset potential in these last couple rings. What you would think normally is that yes, you want to be able to, as a 3-man, just make your way in and clean up these last couple squads. But what this can turn into, depending on the level of patience from a lot of these singular members left, is one team of 3 encountering a singular person, having all of their plans be disrupted by a surprising amount of damage. So what I'm expecting to happen here, and it's what Shotgunners could very well take advantage of, they're one of the only teams out in the open right now. They haven't got to go through anyone. They just need to wait for the lobby to come to them.
It's tough, though, because those buildings are still going to be offering a source of defense for this squad. Meanwhile, we never got to see the climax of this situation, but it looks like Razer, in their entirety, one of our partnered squads, finally eliminated.
It's a big takedown in the lobby, since we were expecting Razer, with their early rotation up to the north, to be able to control this game so well. But the fact that they've gone down at this point makes it, of course, all the more difficult for them to recover over the course of these 6 games. And gives another team an opportunity, maybe Mooney an opportunity, because he's going crazy with the Peacekeeper. Does manage to dodge for a second, take a quick shield bat. Arcstar could cause some trouble, but he's going to get the shield bat off, has all this effective health, and he is right back into the game. game. Intel won that decisively on the outside.
Here's the problem, though. Now Intel has to worry about their rotation. Granted, yes, they do have the fence line to play, but you have to wonder how they're going to make their way in. Granted, that drop right there should give them the access they need to bolster their way inside. Great beams found there. Drop, though, onto Impulse. Will dissuade Intel for the time being. Now you can see other squads beginning to roll up as well.
Mooney and James are playing this slow. We'll see if they can get their friend right back into the lobby. Mooney committing over the wall with the singularity on the outside to stop any interruption on the res. James Fearless is playing with so much awareness of what his team needs, and it's enough to get that gold bag res onto Impulse to put all of Intel right back into the game. Up against Nerf on the inside. This is a clash of the Titans.
I have to say, they were just toying with Nerf there, and this is the more experienced squad, right? I mean, or no, my apologies. We're talking about two of our previously partnered squads, so they've gone toe-to-toe multiple times before. Meanwhile, kill feed, 10 squads remaining. Rollers MX are officially eliminated in combo due to the fact of Visa, but meanwhile, Nerf continuing to lay pressure down here onto Nerf on the interior. Now with only one remaining, that's going to be James Fearless cleaning this one up with the flatline, but they quickly now have to defend against the gas.
The Nox Gas grenade post-mortem, though, just isn't going to be enough. It's a singular member that threw that in, and while it disrupts the res of Impulse, James Fearless and Mooney are so well equipped to deal with this. James actually taking an alternate angle up top, gets his shields cracked, but I'm not even worried yet. Mooney still has so much time to cover him, and is going to be able to find a sick Peacekeeper shot at the inside. What is this Intel roster made of?
Mind you, Intel there, they go for double angles on that fight. You had James Fearless entering from the other side to also put damage down when it was necessary. Intel now back towards the outer edge. They're just barely unable to crack the red Evo. Mooney gonna take some time to get the bat in as, yes, officially round 5 is closing. How are they still chugging?
They can still walk through the caustic barrels as well, but it's right into the waiting arms of Vizio. Mooney is going to go down, and finally, the Intel squad that lasted against 4 different members against 2 different squads has finally ended up going down. Vizio are controlling this northernmost point of the ring, wrapping around the top right now. Look at all this disruption that they're able to cause in the lobby while still having cover from the high ground.
They're going to pull right back to the edge. They see certified BMers and Tyson in a fight for themselves. They're going to clean up that one final kill to bring us down to not just 4, but now 3 squads remaining. A full 3-man on either side, but that defensive bombardment may make this 2.
Now you just watch it all go down. Spectre are gone, and it's the final 3v3 who will come out on top. Will it be Vizio supremacy in Season 5 again?
Remember, double heirloom items in play here. The G7 Scout as well as the Kraber. Michael have taken low there. They got an eye on Cynical. Look at the double angles here from Vizio. This is giving me dreams of the past. Ooh, a bit of an S on the Kraber there, but the defensive bombardment, this will smoke the rats out of their hole.
It just keeps putting pressure down. Burton buys time for the rest of the squad to join up, and I believe that was a stick with the Arc Star. Vizio should have this. The second bubble advantage is theirs, but they've lost Burton. Can the rest of the squad clutch it up? It looks like they can. Blitz finds the initial pump with the PK, and it's one last member for Vizio to take the first win of Season 5.
Vizio coming out on top. Potentially again here, the first win of our season, once again reclaimed. It's a different team, a different member of representation, but still a win here for the Vizio rosters.
There is power in that name. What a terrifying performance from Vizio. That end game was theirs, no questions asked. We spent so long on Intel that we barely even got to see how Vizio found themselves in that position to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, we got to touch in with Vizio very, very early on. Actually, right here with the start where Excedrin were taking their fight against this squad here. And Vizio actually comes up and cleans this fight at the very, very end. And that actually eliminates Excedrin. But granted, it goes us to show that Vizio has changed up, obviously, their playstyle. Granted, right, 3 different members, completely new roster. I shouldn't even be saying that. But at the end of the day, you have to remember Vizio was usually a central playing squad who capitalized on early control. This Vizio Vizio right up against the edge, holding the angles, taking the zone, playing it to its favor right up against the wall. And while we weren't on their perspective there at the end on Skyhook, they were doing the same. We saw how they held the buildings, that entrance there right up against the edge, and that's what eliminated Intel.
Such perfect play. And I find myself amazed at what we saw from our partnered squads in this lobby. But there were teams that we can still look forward to seeing in the games to come. Teams that went down off screen and teams, in this case, that barely survived. I remember this Valkyrie meme well.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost prevented the rotation there. And granted, the one big elephant in the room that we cannot dismiss is Intel's rise to dominance here in the Skyhook region. And while they weren't able to come out on top, it was just absurd how they were able to pull through against the likes of Nerf and several other squads as they all tried to usurp this position. I mean, tactical decisions, much like the one you're seeing on your screen now from James Fearless, were so important to at least allowing them to source out not only a good top 10 position, but also what was the KP that still keeps them competitive on the overall leaderboard.
That's exactly the thing that I'm looking forward to seeing when we do get around those Mobile 1 leaderboards. But you've heard our take on the game. There are still some folks that I'm interested in hearing from. So I want to toss this one over to Yeso and the analysts to see what their perspective was on Game 1 of Season 5.
Big win for Vizio there to kick off the season here in game number 1. And I think very important there that Dia and Zephyr mentioned. You go back to the start of Season 4, and it was Team Vizio dominating off the start. They won the first 4 open nights to kick off Season 4. And while it is a different roster this time around with Blitz, Borton, and Sung doing much the same, coming out really strong and looking good in this first game of the day. So really well played from them, and honestly some great highlights there. Intel looking really good as well. I think they're certainly going to be kicking themselves with how that game finished off, because it really felt like while they were looking really good in that early game, getting a lot of frags and even looked solid in that Nerf fight, felt like they just kind of weren't able to get those killing blows that were important to give themselves the breathing room, right? It took them a little too long to take out Nerf. They get punished by the third parties there ultimately. They still had a solid performance, but I think they probably had a win in their eyes there. If they're able to just finish off some of those players, get that last little bit of damage to close out those fights a little bit quicker. But let's take a look at our champion squad here from game number 1. Of course, it was Vizio. And look at that. That's a really great performance from the team. 14 kills across the board. Everybody up over 1,200 damage, so great contribution across the board. Good assists as well. I mean, Sung not getting a ton in the kills department, but 7 assists and just short of 1,300 damage, so that's just a really good performance from Vizio to kick off the season. Honestly, there's a reason that Void finished atop our qualifiers here for Season 5. They were clearly the best team during qualifiers, and they have carried that momentum here at the very least into the first game of the season, so well played from them. Let's take a look at our Mobile 1 high performance moment here for game number 1 of the day, and it's going to be the finish here for Team Vizio. Of course, Blitz had the Kraber, wasn't able to land that shot, but with one more shot left and able to get that defensive bombardment out, it sets up just a really well played push here from Vizio. Good damage with the defensive bombardment. Blitz able to hold on to that bubble just long enough, and they finish it off here. 1 PK shot there, and they're able to close it out. Look at this Kraber, not quite able to land that one, but the PK rings true. So well played from Vizio. A clean finish to that first game and a clean start to the day here. Of course, they'll be up near the top of our Mobile 1 leaderboard. Intel, I imagine, will be contenders up there. Curious to see how those points shook out. We'll check that out when we come back from this break. Zephyr, and Dia will have game number 2 for you when we return.
I'll be loading up, they wanna package this. Pray for peace, pacifist, I'm never old enough to give a promise.
When the chicken is this crispy and this tasty, it doesn't matter what else is for dinner. Tyson crispy strips are so delicious, they'll be your favorite part of every meal. More crispy chicken, more family faves, more to love. Tyson.
Welcome back to Series E Season 5. My name is still Dia, and I'm still joined by Zephyr. By Zephyr, that's right, by Zephyr. Well, now that I'm done having fun, what I am really looking forward to set things up and let Zephyr recover for a second is to take a look at our Mobile 1 leaderboard to see where things lined up after that first game. Vizio controlled the end game masterfully, but those kill points that you were talking about, Zephyr, they came in clutch for Intel.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Zepha, and this is the official Mobile 1 leaderboard here. Vizio, of course, taking the win on their belt, and no slouch to their own in terms of KP. 14 for themselves there. That justifying just about 5 squads or almost a fourth of the lobby there. But like you said, Intel, as early as they did fall, were still able to feel fairly comfortable on their position in second. Most of that being the kills that they had picked up. Granted, when we start talking about some of the other rostered kind of partnered squads, Nerf, Tyson, Razer, etc., looking a little bit worse for wear.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to give them a little bit of time to warm up. First day of the season, first game of the season. I'm sure they're going to be bringing it back, but it is a difficult spot to start in, and it is something that I think is going to worry a lot of teams that were expecting to have this free flow right into the season, especially a squad like Exedrin that I think it's fair to say I was looking at, and a lot of people could very well have been looking at to be the leaders of the initial start of Season 5. Falling behind at this point gives them a lot to do in the next 5 games. Only 2 left on World's Edge, and we're dropping into the second right now.
Yeah, as our dropship makes its way across World's Edge, we've got all our squads dropping down, looking to get a bit of a taste of the action. I don't say this very often, but obviously some of these games are just the first kind of inkling of pacing for any of these squads as they get adjusted to one another.
No certified beamers landing over in Lava Siphon. We'll see if they get into an engagement early, as they did land contested. Going to get shot a little bit on the way out, but largely you'd expect them to split loot. The fact that this bubble is forced is bad, but it's not the end of the world, because as long as Miles is able to get into the building safely, should be just risky enough that Nerf won't push up.
Nerf on the defense here, obviously, or potentially we're on the defense there very early on, and very quickly we're able to find the success in what they defended. Wait, right. Now, able to take the complete central area for control here for Lava Siphon, and granted, potentially down there towards the south, have access towards that replicator, get themselves crafted, or potentially push if they want to. We saw how they were able to hold their own against Intel for quite some time there, so we know for a fact that this is a pretty dang skilled roster.
Now, Zephyr, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about going out of last game and into this one was the way that the meta has changed. Watch it change on our screens right now. That's a Pathfinder, if I'm not mistaken.
That is indeed a Pathfinder.
What?
Long gone, though. Beef keg. Drop down now, potentially looking for the last 2 members of this squad here.
Razer have nothing to fear in front of them. They got the Beefcake squad with Gibraltar and Caustic. They can walk up, they bring a lot of safety to a fight. That plus the mobility of Valkyrie makes things a lot more difficult to contest. But it also brings me right back to the point that I was thinking of earlier. And that was the way the compositions have changed. Because what I'm noticing, especially on World's Edge, is that we have a lot more Horizon. Even though no one's played competitive for the last month or so, just given how the technical issues have been. So what do you make of this change? Why are we seeing this now?
I think it's fairly interesting because remember last season, we had a start that was heavily impacted by Horizon becoming an asset to some of these rosters. And heck, you can see here, granted, I do remember Farmer Lucas and friends definitely pulling out the Horizon several times before. Now as they continue to do so, it will dissuade pressure with the utilization of the Singularity, but it hasn't given them their opening just yet. Granted, Farmer Lucid, Sleepy Panda, now 1 member remaining just across the side there. A quick beam, a drop, and intelligence. Removed again.
That was really nice. at the same time, Shenanigans ended up going down, so we're already into our top 18 squads. 2 down at this point is already a very fast-paced game. I think it's mirroring the same pace that we had last game, but with a lot less just single pickoffs and a lot more squad wipes already.
So more KP directly awarded to some of the squads that do find themselves in some phases of action. But I do want to kind of try to finalize this one out. Obviously, Horizon had made its impacts. You know, teams like Intel, like James Fearless specifically, were playing the Horizon out when it kind of came through and was part of that kind of wombo combo-esque meta utilized due to the fact that Horizon was one of the few legends that offered the verticality necessary to kind of get some impacts on Stormpoint, and that kind of bled through the entirety of last season. And then as Valkyrie became a hot and heavy meta and teams became needing of more consistent points, we saw the more consistent, you know, Gibby, Valk, and then rotational legend find its way through here. Meanwhile, Miles tries to break his way through and is very quickly punished for trying to do so.
We got to see it right then, yeah. We push up with this Gibby, Caustic, Valk, but with Caustic especially not being inside the building yet, they just don't have the defenses available to be able to take this fight. And Miles goes down, denying you even more safety. Certified Beamers, their only objective now is to survive, when previously it was to thrive inside of Geyser on a rotation up to the north. Buff Pathfinder coming in from the back, though, in for a third party. I believe we've already found a knock, and Bursty's taking a creative angle on the low ground that should separate this fight very, very well. Burst coming around the side. Woo! Does have backup on the way as well. And it is 2, 3 members that fall very quickly. Rollers MX are taken out of the game in a hurry.
Rollers MX, they're not really precise on their defense. Kind of just let Buff Pathfinder walk into that one and take all the damage necessary to secure that fight. And granted, Nerf could have potentially made the rotation in to capitalize, but they themselves looks like we're also in a skirmish. And meanwhile, the action continues here. Dexterity now laying pressure down on the outskirts of Skyhook. Already found 1 knock onto Slow, 1 kill it. Looking for potentially 1 final member here.
Oh, I'm going to get it as well. Nice slide around the corner, but the shot doesn't quite connect. Instead, refocusing on this Caustic.
Gosh.
Full data's available to Dexterity, and they've got nothing to fear. It is always a numbers advantage for them as they rout yet another squad inside the building. And this is a big thing that we're seeing in the first couple days that you're going to continue to see on open nights, and that is that
it's not done.
The teams that have had a lot more time together are so well prepared when it comes to coordination. Even Stomps right now, able to get safety, give no respect though, want to take it all. Can they push into this building with that same coordination? They've already taken down 1, I believe, on Dexterity, and they're taking an alternate angle. Highlight gets chunked out, gets taken down, and Wave turns things out.
Neg from behind there trying to put the damage down. Dexterity are all fully up there and give no respect. Tries to come in third party and is quickly eliminated. That's 2 whole squads there for Dexterity on the outside of Skyhook.
That's absolutely disgusting as well to see Give No Respect go down like that. Even further speaks to what we were talking about earlier. The pure experience of this squad is what has separated them from the 2 teams that died in their wake. Intel now using that very same experience to back away, give a little bit of respect outside of Climatizer, and actually use this bubble to ensure that Mooney stays up. A wisely used cooldown, and Intel get to take to this bridge of death, but fortunately for them, alive for the moment.
Intel there, we knew they wanted to get some of the action under their belt, seeing as many of these lobbies continuing to fall as quickly as they are here. Razer, the squad below that they tried to aggress upon, and for once, I have to say, you can't go toe-to-toe. This is that old optimal ambition roster that we saw play through during the qualifiers, and they themselves were quick on the defense, much like Nerf here, already dropping 1 onto Brav. Now the 50-50 bubble fight, 1 member left remaining, running down to the low ground of Geyser there, just barely able to escape for now.
I love that the Arc Star was enough, and Nerf went, you know what? I don't really want that kill. I'm going to stick with what I've got up here. They take down these 2 remaining members, and they're going to be able to continue to hold this choke point should they desire to. Still inside the ring, and still with plenty of squads that could come up through Geyser. It's a really nice position that Nerf have right now. Easily defensible, and most importantly, still has a lot of options for when they want to move a little bit further north. Tyson, however, they're not moving.
No, not at all. One of the few squads to also take advantage of some of the meta that we saw kind of evolve this last season around the Watson, and they're actually utilizing the Gibraltar as well. So heavy reliance on finding kind of one of those god spots and playing for it in the long run. Now, if I was them, I would like to see them potentially find rotations out of survey camp and begin setting themselves up a little bit further north, as that's where we tend to see this one typically pull. Meanwhile, Intel still on the hunt here.
Well, if anybody can find kills right now, find them aggressively. It's very clearly Intel. Found good positions so far. No beams on James Fearless, but as he rounds the corner, he lays one out, putting down Clixy. And in a 2 versus 3 situation right now in the favor of Intel, they have absolutely nothing to be afraid of. 2 members down, and while Mooney's gone low, we're going to be saying goodbye to another squad. Impulse whips out the car for a stylish finish, and this RV, this entire corner of the map is theirs.
It is only Zone 2. It has not even closed in here yet, but Reg is eliminated, bringing us down to 11 squads remaining. And we know for a fact that there is a singular rat still left alive. Meanwhile, just a little bit further out towards the west, towards our no-name Beacon Grandma house here, Excedrin trying to put some pressure down, find their way inside this building, and ooh, just barely does enemy miss the beam there.
Combination of the jets, though, and that gravity lift allows enemy to take height, scout out 2 members that are still up top, and crucially get Excedrin down underneath this building. They are in a great spot at the moment, but in a 3 versus 3, it isn't where you want to be. This is an excellent one for the third party, and Dexterity, they are baiting it a little bit right now. With these continued shots, with this continued fight, there's more and more chance that somebody else comes in and interrupts. Cruisen's already gone down, though. We can see Dexterity turn this around.
Wow.
Excedrin have found themselves 1 knock. Enemy on 1 HP is able to survive, but Lee might not for much longer. A reload on the flat line leaves enemy defenseless, but turning the corner, he's going to be able to take out 1 more, 2 more members, and take out Dexterity. Enemy, are you kidding me?
Enemy there with the flatline, able to defend against 2 members on the back end. Meanwhile, both Pathfinder in a fight of their own. They've already found the 1 knock on to death, but continue to do so. Love the rotation from Bursty there for the full wipe of insanity.
That was a very, very smart angle as well. The flank was perfect for Bursty, but Buff Pathfinder still ultimately get caught off guard as Vizio come in for the third party, and have almost taken down their 3rd member as well. There's not an angle for this just yet, but Burton's on the hunt.
Burton on the side there, he doesn't know it, but we do. But that head peek is going to give away this position here. Having that R99, just got to get a little bit closer to maybe control that recoil. I like the switch up to the 30-30, but you have to pay respect towards what is out there towards the west. The beams of the charge rifle are coming through, and now Burton has lost his sight line regarding the opposer, but I think he's choking him out.
Game sense from Vizio really on point there as they were hey! Nice Arc Star,
nice.
able to find the full wipe.
All right, we got some tricks. We got some plays out here. We styling on the new Vizio roster. They're picking up wins, and they're doing it nasty. Meanwhile, finally, a partnered squad versus a partnered squad. Intel versus potentially, it looks like if this isn't even Vizio, this is someone towards the south here.
Let's see who it ends up being, because James Fearless is rocking up on them right now. Gravity lift at the ready, but not going to be invested, as they may have just, with their presence alone, been able to find themselves a home. Nobody wants to fight Intel right now.
They don't even know it's Intel. They just can feel it. Oh, but that is a good rotation. I have to give them props for that. A late Valk rotation will find their way through, and it's a good one that will at least give them the opportunity to survive. Granted, they do go for the split this. I mean, Intel won't be able to capitalize on that. Granted, we know for a fact that Vizio is up there towards the north, so most of the spots that you usually find yourself into for safety are already picked off. So with that landing and Yams falling, I think it's likely that Vizio has spotted this one.
They're picking up even more kills than they did last game as well. Vizio have been on a rampage so far, and even though Nerf have the high ground, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to catch up to Vizio in pure kills at this point, barring some insane end-game play, much like we saw from Intel in the mid-game last time. But as Vizio continue to rock up on even more and more squads, go for increasing amounts of third parties, and find Valkyries that simply want to be left alone. It's bonus, bonus, bonus that are on the receiving end of a very, very, very difficult fight.
I want to point out here how we are down to 8 squads remaining with the 3rd closing, and out of those 8 squads, all 6 of our partners still remain.
It speaks to that experience that we talked about earlier, and especially coming out of Game 1, now that everybody's had a chance to, I don't know, get the odd positioning out of their system, we're seeing our partnered squads and their ability to adapt from lobby to lobby really be rewarded. From those who lasted through last season to those who were so well, who represented themselves so well in the qualifiers.
Remember, last season, if you weren't watching, when we came into Open Nights, it was almost surefire that our 6 partnered squads would always be at the very top of that leaderboard. And occasionally, we may get a very, very talented open roster that would come through, much like Redeem and a few others who made their own impacts, but it was usually always those 6, and it looks like it might be the same this time around. Granted, squads like Redeem, Void, Optimal Ambition, they played through Open last season. They made their statements. They proved that they could fight up against some of the best, and now they're in the position to do that under one of the entities here behind Esports.
It looks really good, and it speaks to the ever-increasing level of competition in Series E. There used to be so much parity even on Open Nights, and now we're seeing that those that have participated from season to season, who have been consistently showing up to Open Nights for, I don't know, months, maybe even a couple of years now? Yeah, they're setting themselves apart from the rest of Apex Legends competitive that is represented here, especially in Open Nights. Excedrin able to control this high ground really well, have themselves a great spot in the end game. Take a look up at the top left hand of your screen. They are in a really difficult to challenge position, but Lee is separated from the squad. What's this about?
Lee pulled back there, might be defending against the rotation that could potentially come through there out of Survey Camp if we are talking about teams like Tyson, who we know for a fact are out there towards the west, but I think they already made their movement towards Epicenter. Granted, still angles could be being found there from the Excedrin roster. Meanwhile, Razer was allowed to get the full reset off after their extended trade there against Excedrin for now.
Intel take a moment to reset underneath these glaciers. It may have been a little too long, though. Mooney's gone down, and it's up to James Fearless, and James Fearless alone to turn this. He's not going to be able to, and even though the Mastiff comes out, it is not nearly enough. Tyson are able to rout very quickly, and what didn't look like a fight that was going their way, and then all of a sudden turned around in like half a second.
I want to point out, with only a second to spare, bonus fall just before Intel there, securing the fact that all 6 of our partnered squads are confirmed to be in the top 6 this game. That is a narrative in itself.
It is just a matter of who ends up coming out on top at this point. Which of our partnered squads really feel like continuing the season with a bang? It is really wild, actually.
I mean, that level of consistency, it shows the quality of these teams. And I would go out on a limb and see that. I mean, we're talking a level of Pro League-esque Challenger circuit, without a doubt, top 40 at least for a lot of these rosters. Meanwhile, Tyson not quite able to recover from what was the pressure after that initial fight there. Going to be put back. Now Nerf stepping up. Yeah, no, I was about to say.
Go on, then.
No. Follow through.
All right, well, here we go. It's the fight. This is the whole point, is to see how Nerf continue to chase this down. We already know it's going to be difficult, and the Arc Star just reveals Z Davis hiding behind this crate. Not a whole lot to do there, and yet another member down. We've even got a res coming in, so another kill given over to Nerf, and this could let them start to challenge Vizio in the kill feed, although a shield swap is looking really nice. It's not looking nearly nice enough.
Yeah, for Tyson here, their journey may be all but over. Oxy Ares is finally spotted out above there, taking advantage of those Valkyrie passive jets, and quickly does Nerf follow through to finish the job. That leaves only Nerf, Razer here, I believe, Vizio, and help me out.
Hey, I mean,
Excedrin! There we go.
I was going to say, it's not just the facial hair of Messiah that goes crazy. His game sense right there.
Okay. All right. The mustache gives telepathy.
No, it doesn't. But the fact that he's been playing for so long, I mean, you would have seen Messiah played last season through Series E as well.
Yeah.
The guy goes crazy. If
Okay.
you get him within...
Vizio here knocks Gas Grenade in. You can see that one starting to tick on the interior of the box here. Razer, who haven't made moves this entire time, are now punished very quickly. That Arc Star is going to be laying this one out. Meanwhile, this is a fight between Razer and Excedrin that started off, and as a result, a majority of these two rosters are put down. Meanwhile, Lee, enemy, able to heal up to a certain degree and able to come back out on top, but still the gas ticks through, and Razer is officially eliminating it, bringing us down to our 3 final remaining squads.
It's all 3 full squads as well. Excedrin's still waiting on the other end of this. Are going to be able to have access to the loot primarily, but Vizio still feel very comfortable outside. And this is something that you wouldn't normally say, but in a final ring like this, Excedrin are likely going to be forced to leave before anything.
Yeah, I do not like the inside play here. You have zone coming up right behind you very quickly, and that's going to basically funnel you through 1 or 2 entrances there, and that sets Vizio up to get a beam off. And while Vizio probably wouldn't likely come out on top, it still doesn't secure any further placement for Excedrin. So you need to see them make some more aggressive moves, maybe potentially put themselves on a position of rotation or put pressure down so they find their next move in forward while not taking the damage necessary.
I'm sure they'd love to get a little bit of height right now, but it's Messiah that is keeping them from being able to do so. Nerf from the low ground are giving Vizio a lot of space, and I'm curious to see where Vizio end up playing, because Burton's also doing a really good job of controlling Nerf. We've got a game of rock, paper, scissors going on in a very odd way. And right now, it's definitely favoring Vizio, who find themselves outside and on the verge of their second win.
This is interesting because how Nerf plays this will decide the game here. If they choose to fight their way into Excedrin up against the building, that would be it, of course, for Excedrin. But if they try to run it out towards the side, play slow creep against the hill here, Vizio would not be able to put the damage down to potentially defend here. But granted, we can see Excedrin already trying to take the high ground necessary on the top of this L shape, because at this point, it is starting to be the only thing left to do.
And watch Blitz specifically, because the bubble from Vizio would be the end of the game for them. They get 1 shot at that cooldown. As soon as it expires, Excedrin have nothing to fear anymore. There is no danger in pushing up to this squad. So Blitz's trigger discipline, in a way, has to be on point when it comes to the abilities. And the rest of the squad is coming up to support him. Nerf gonna start sandwiching in right now. It looks like they're actually thinking about pushing onto Excedrin, but it's a 50-50 as to what they go for right now. That roof is looking juicy. That roof is looking available. Do they take it?
You could play slow side right against the corner. They just have to make sure that it is clear on the back end. They don't know for certainty that Excedrin have moved forward like we already do here. Granted, for them, it's going to be tight. The minute they climb up from this hill, they're in full sight line of Vizio, who have been on that high ground for such a long time. But the zone is beginning to close in, and while the pole is close to Nerf, their cover is negligible.
Good initial trade from Turns, though. It's all about confidence in these final seconds. The round starting to close, and a push-up from Blitz actually gives Vizio a little bit more space, taking a little bit away from this low ground.
Wow,
Vizio have opted into
this?
mirror Nerf right now, forcing them into the decision onto the high ground, but they put themselves in a position where they themselves are vulnerable to Excedrin. The defensive bombardment thrown behind gives them a little bit more time, but an Arc Star is going to wreak havoc. Vizio are in danger, but it is a gambit, and it is one that is paying off. Able to take a fight up against Nerf right now. They go for it. Playing for second. Can Vizio manage to find this wipe in time? In the close quarters, Carr does so much work, but Excedrin know exactly what's going on. They've smelled out this gambit, and they are here for the third party, here for the win. We're down to our top 2 squads, and Excedrin rain down fire and take game 2.
I have to say, they're Excedrin playing the long con going into that game, too. They're held on the outskirts for such an extended period there, and they did good on my expectations. They didn't play directly onto the inside of the building. They held steadfast, and while they weren't directly going to be ever pressured, they still had to pay a lot of respect. They couldn't go on top of the building. They couldn't make any heavy rotations. They constantly had to retain themselves, and that eventually forced Vizio out from their rocked cover out there towards the east, down to that low ground, which eventually they had to make the tough decision to go up against Nerf.
It was a really awkward spot. I do not envy any team that found themselves in that final ring, but I can't fault anybody for the plays that were made there either. But the things that brought us here, they were equally, if not more impressive, if in a different way. We had a lot of very quick fights going off, and this one for Dexterity was amazing.
Yeah, no, this game has given me my interpretation of Season 5 to such a high degree when it comes to where the skill set and level of our partner teams is currently at right now in regards to kind of those opened entities that do find their way in these kind of misnomers who don't usually get as much of the competitive practice as, say, those, like you brought up during the game, have been here for months upon months upon months, right? And a moment like this, this has to be the Mobile 1 high-performance moment of the game. The save here from Enemy. I mean, this is just that skill set that we're talking about. The double wipe, the clutch up here on No Name Grandmas.
He literally ran out of bullets on that as well. He's not reloading after that fight because he's like, oh, well, I got time to reload. There's literally nothing left in that clip. We already know that his shotgun is out of ammo as well. There's no second chances. And Enemy being able to clutch up like that is wild, and it's what lets Excedrin play with the confidence that they did right there at the very end as well. That last second play, that last second win from them. It was an impressive game, and much like I said last game, I think that's fair to say again, I know what we thought of it. Let's hear what Yeso made of that game.
Big game there for Excedrin as they grab the win. Vizio were hunting for the back-to-back here to kick off the night. They did get into that top three alongside Nerf and Excedrin, but Excedrin comes out on top. And it really felt like the big key for them was getting control of that building early on, right before the circle starts to close. A lot of teams were kind of posturing around the building. One team was inside, and ultimately Excedrin coming out on top. They have the caustic ultimate to kind of get them in the door along with some grenades, and once they established themselves inside and got Razer out of the area, they had the exact positioning that they wanted. And it actually seemed to be really key that the final circle actually pulled away from the building, because it meant that while Nerf and Vizio kind of did want to try and break Excedrin's hold on that building earlier on, once the circle started to close, they had to take their eyes off of Excedrin and focus on where the circle was pulling, force them to fight each other, and ultimately Excedrin able to take advantage and grab the win. So well played from them, and they grab a big victory here. Let's take a look at our champion squad here for game number 2. We'll take a peek at Excedrin's stats here. Of course, Kimchi Lee leading the way in the damage department, but the kills going to Enemy there. 6 kills in that game. Also, Kimchi with 4 assists as well, so certainly a big contributor to the squad. And there's a few very key kills from Enemy that laid the foundation for this Excedrin win, and it didn't come in that late game. It actually came much earlier on in the game, and it is the focus of our Mobile 1 high performance moment for game number 2. So let's bring that one up and take a look at this fight that was so key for Excedrin. Now this was big because Cruisin goes down early. Cruisin uses their tactical to try and get up and use the ultimate on the roof, and it means that Excedrin actually fights from down multiple players here early on. But the thing is Enemy was able to clutch it out, dropped down from the building with his rockets on very low health. I want to take one more look at this if we can look at it one more time. Yeah, so the key here is look at Enemy, peeks in, good damage on the Gibby, gets the knock, but look, 1 health, but drops down, is able to get the battery off here, and luckily this one player does not notice that he is there until after the battery gets off, and then Enemy clean with the aim on the flat line, very close range, but Enemy does not miss. And that is the fight that set the foundation for that Excedrin win. So well played from Enemy and the entire squad there for the win. Shout out to production as well. Love the new format here, adjusting, rolling with the punches here, and they're kicking butt out there. It's going to be a fun rest of the day. So 2 games down here, Excedrin with a win, Vizio as well. We've got one more game remaining on World's Edge before we head over to Storm Point. So let's go to a break real fast, but when we come back, we'll keep Series E rolling.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. 2 games down and 1 left on World's Edge before we transition over to Stormpoint. I'm Dia. I'm joined by Zephyr, who at this point you know and love and remember the name of, most importantly. Let's go take a look at those Mobile 1 leaderboards to see where we're at going into this 3rd game, Zephyr. It doesn't even faze you anymore.
I'm sick of it already, but it doesn't matter. What I'm not sick of is seeing Vizio at the top of the leaderboard. Granted, you might think I may be after last season, but hey, still holding strong there in first place with 39 points. But we have to give high props to those who are quickly climbing up. Nintel, Nerf, Excedrin, our partnered squads having a massive game too, have pushed them to the limit. And of course, Tyson, Razer not too far behind themselves.
Yeah, this is big for Excedrin to be able to join in the top squads after being one of the first eliminated in game number 1. Game number 2 obviously brings them into top 4, but they need to keep pushing this because, as we talked about, Excedrin is one of the teams that I'm really excited about going into this season, who I believe has the discipline, moreover, to be able to play like Dexterity did in those fights over by Skyhook, to be able to mind control teams with excellent micro shot calling. That is Excedrin's strength when they can get it rolling, and I'm excited to see how it plays out in this 3rd game.
I think something that's going to be very fascinating to watch here as we make our way through the season, because we've already clearly proven that the partnered squads are definitely ahead of the open generalized teams, and while some may find their own success regarding the circles, there's definitely a quality that exists among our partnered, right? Now what I want to see is the difference between those partnered squads who have been together for a season in total, when we start talking about squads like Excedrin, who you're excited to watch out for, and Intel, of course, versus our newcomers, right? Team Tyson, Team Vizio, these names, these shoes to fill here, and already we're seeing success among all 6, right?
Yeah, this is, I think, the best start that partnered squads have had in any season, and there's been 5 of them, so the fact that we're getting rolling like this is big, and it just kind of keeps going, as Mooney's already found 2 knocks, and Intel are going to find their first squad wipe, maybe even before the timer comes up in the top left right now. James is chasing down the last member of this team, and should be able to find it if timers come up.
Right into the fissure. There's nothing there. Shenanigans are eliminated just as the game begins. I believe this is almost the 2nd time in a row that we've seen this take place in the early game. And Shenanigans, they've changed their drop spot multiple times now to try to get away from something like this.
Did you do the Bloodhound missions last season where you had to, like, follow the bird on World's Edge? Did you do that?
What? That was a thing?
Yeah, you had to, maybe it was 2 seasons ago, but you had to, like, follow the Raven as it went through World's Edge and managed to not get shot by anyone else, but it led you to that point in the map, and that was where I realized that beyond Climatizer, there's really nothing. Like, they just decided nobody should play up here anyway.
I was about to say, there's certain points on the map where you just got to question it, right? I mean, you find yourself far west outside of Thermal Station, even past the grandma houses where we're talking about those itty-bitty cliff sides or the dead zone between the dome and launch site. And, I mean, it is a barren wasteland. And obviously, Shenanigans are caught in the midst of it. So, for now, they're going to be drawing up some new plans as they'll have to reapproach Stormpoint, where I'll tell you what, Dia, it does not get much easier, okay? It is just as open.
No, it feels like these circles as well have gotten increasingly difficult to play. We went from a Skyhook zone where we all kind of knew where things were going to end to a Climatizer one where, yeah, you can predict the building on top is going to be safe. And now we're going down to Lava Siphon where it's anarchy. There are so many zone endings in Lava Siphon that even to make it there, you're going to have to adjust in the end game. And that's if Buff Pathfinder managed to make it because they're already under fire.
Right, last time around we saw Buff Pathfinder kind of take some early skirmishes against squads on the out western, or my apologies, eastern end of Climatizer, and very quickly, the minute they found their success, the third party comes through from, I believe, what was Vizio, and they really couldn't defend against it. They were in a healthy position, right? I mean, they didn't take a bad fight. They could have found good resets, but they weren't able to do so. So for now, they actually take towards an escaped route here to make their way towards West Fragment out of the hands of Reg.
And we haven't seen a lot of Reg, right? We called them out for going down pretty early last game, but until now, I hadn't appreciated that. Yes, they're running the Horizon, but they're also running the Caustic and Gibraltar. Crucially, no Valkyrie on this team, so experimenting with the meta a bit is Tyson, or experimenting with the charge rifle at close range, and Oxy Ares seems to be finding nothing but success. A frag displaces him, but Tyson are still large and in charge, even pushing up into this dome. Z Davis ditches down to the low ground. They're starting to lose control of the fight just a little bit. One beam would put them back in control. One knock would win them the fight, but Tyson can't seem to find the angle. Instead, they lose Joey and just barely manage to take out Razer.
Z Davis and Oxy coming in clutch there at the very, very end there. Obviously, Joey starts that one out with the successful 1v1, but the launch forward there from Z Davis to finish the job and the split from Oxy cleans up Razer, who have been honestly having probably the roughest out of all of our 6 partners. Meanwhile, Dexterity on the other side of Fissure here, already in a fight of their own. Drop down is Weave. They're going to try to find the response to the bubble, but they just can't quite win these 50-50s, and as a result are eliminated. Give no respect, living up to the name, and now Chug Gunna's coming up to third party.
They really did. This is a crazy chaotic fight inside of Lava Fissure, and Chug Gunna's aren't even done right there.
Done.
We called out that it was over, but yet another team has arrived, Zephyr.
Well, for slow here, they're going to have to slow up. The damage push back from Chug Gunners is enough to prevent them from getting their 4th party here into this situation. For now, they're going to have to heal through and even push themselves even further back with the utilization of that Arc Star. And if I caught that correctly, yeah, Dome is down out of Galactita there, so not going to be available if they want to make their assault on the Chug Gunnas.
With Nerf moving over towards Tree, we've got a lot of different ways to approach a zone like this, and Messiah, well, it got close there, ended up being the one to eliminate. Bonus with the team. As Intel start taking chunks out of another squad, it is again Fearless on the front lines, who finds 2 knocks and is turning around for yet another team that's coming into third party, and Impulse gets the shield swap, but I think at this point, there's no chance you win this fight.
Not a chance you win the fight, not a chance you escape there. Third parties being the name of the game in the entirety of our third lobby here. Rollers MX coming through to clean up the fight between Reg and Intel. That marks for 2 of our partnered squads. Meanwhile, Spectre here, able to find the Sentinel crack, but very quickly are taking damage of their own. The bat going to be have to utilize from Kane there.
That charge rifle is just ticking away at them, keeping Spectre from being able to walk forward with confidence and allowing Intelligence to get a reset. Flesh is found with the flat line in the distance, but it's not enough, and Gordo isn't able to capitalize. No one is able to capitalize. Spectre miss out on 3 kills right in front of them because there's too many squads firing at them in Lava Siphon.
Right, and you brought that up from the very beginning of the game here. We talk about how Lava Siphon is such a contested area, but more importantly, it leaves for so many access points for these squads. And you see right there, they were shot out from all the way in the north, the other side of Siphon, and that's what prevented them. Meanwhile, Nerf here on the other angle. This is just exactly where we saw this squad only a second before, I believe, being sniped out.
Seems like they've got a lot more confidence now, a lot more silence, as no one is in the area. We saw a single Arc Star right next to Messiah a little while ago, but nothing since. And while it isn't the spot that I would have predicted them to play, this is definitely a lurk angle. You find one person walking through these doors without checking every corner, and that person, that team, likely is going down.
Yeah, but Nerf, they have to know that they've got that read on that central Lava Siphon building. If they take any kind of fight here, it could very quickly end poorly for them, given the fact that third parties will come through, right? And we've seen it time and time again in this lobby, but of course all throughout today, as most teams are getting far too aggressive without respecting the positioning of other squads here. Now, Excedrin, they catch Nerf out on their rotation back towards the chokehold entrance on the train line. You can see Kimchi Lee putting damage down, work with the charge rifle there.
That is the Kimchi Lee that I came to know and love.
Yeah.
The long distance management of another squad. He's almost forcing them into suboptimal decisions, forcing them to give up ground and Nerf, get pushed out of Lava Siphon just through a chance encounter with Excedrin. This looks good for them. After a win in game 2, the confidence is seeping out of Excedrin right now, and they're going to need to push into Lava Siphon, but something tells me that won't be a problem.
I'm getting Dumpers vibes from Excedrin. You remember Challenger Circuit Split 1, where Dumpers had the most dominant performance out of any Challenger Circuit team across any region, taking top 3 matches in a row? Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. So
I
they
see where you're
fell
going.
off a little bit. Remember, they kind of came in after that split. They weren't able to find their way through Pro League qualifiers, and then as a result, they kind of went through a rough patch for the rest of that season. And then finally, now as we approach Season 5 of Esports Arena, have found their way back in with actually some good performance towards the ends of Season 4 that allowed them to secure their position in the top 3 of relegation.
Check out who's the big boss, that final boss of the area, though, up here in Grandma's house. It's Vizio that have already rotated into the center of the ring, and that's what Excedrin are looking to challenge. That's what they would challenge if Vizio can still even be there by the time that this ring close forces Excedrin into
Joey
it.
now.
So we did see one quick res there with, I believe, a gold backpack.
Yep,
So Vizio
yep.
are hanging on for now, but Sung's down as well.
Yeah, they've got a bit of a mixed fight going on here. They're putting pressure down on Tyson, but it looks like there's another squad coming up through from behind, and Nerf could potentially be in the area as well. Meanwhile, Vizzy on the interior of this building, able to defend for now. Mimo, Adrian down, one last standing member on the very interior of the second floor. Problem is, Vizio unlikely to get good resets here as these other squads come flying in. Now Blitz, the one final member here, going to try to source out this Caustic, and just barely does he do there as Rollers MX will be eliminated. But you gotta worry, Nerf, these squads, they're so close. Tyson as well.
That was a caustic angle there, pure and simple at the end to keep Vizio in the game. They've gotten the reset now, and Nerf aren't able to push up on this just yet. Instead, going over the top right now. Nice angle from Messiah, but doesn't get any kills for it. Doesn't even get any damage, but I've never been in this spot. I've never stood here.
I mean, he's searching. This has moved on. I mean, I understand you're checking for corners, you're checking for rats. I mean, that's what you've got to do at this point, but we have the dramatic irony of knowing we saw that rat find their way out a long time ago there, and even that, you can see the redeploy coming through. So for Nerf, they're going to pull back, play more directly into the cross map here for the Lava Siphon, no-named buildings out here towards the north, and just hole up with the team.
Now, since Nerf are going to be able to regroup inside a building as well, they've got so much more staying power, rivaling, I was going to say, Vizio, and sort of speak of the devil, there they are. Plenty of ammunition in this charge rifle as well, as that's the only gun whose ammo I will check to see how much longer it can continue, and Vizio really have nothing to worry about right now. They do, however, not have a Wraith to be able to pick up that care package, so I do wonder who they'll end up committing to that.
One shot will do it. Only one. 46 damage. Blitz has got this. He got the Kimchi Lee in his veins. Let's find out. 14. 32. 22. 2.
1. What is happening?
All right, there we go.
There it is.
All right. We're having fun.
Yeah,
done.
he got it.
Switch the armors. Ooh, a Mastiff as well. So they're actually able to sustain some heirloom.
Nice job. And since we've got Blitz giving away the red Evo shield, he'll be able to help out the rest of his team as well. Things continue to look good for Vizio after what was a very scary mid-game. But Excedrin are approaching from this southernmost angle, and this is the clash that I'm watching. If Vizio can keep Excedrin at a distance, that's their win condition. Excedrin, on the other hand, really want to get up close and personal right now. Check it out. Flatline car on enemy. It's a heavy ammo meta right now.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit. I mean, obviously, surprisingly, I sit here and go, everyone knows Season 13 at this point, but for a lot of people, this could be your first impression of really seeing competitive going into 13, right? And I know between the two of us, we've had our opportunities regarding Nerd Street and a few other associations to get some influence, and it has led to a bit of a quicker pace of kill I mean, time to death has increased due to the fact that heavy weaponry has become way more dominant coming into the season. But other than that, general playstyles, metas haven't changed too much.
No, it's been very consistent, right? We haven't seen a whole lot of these teams shift up drastically. The way that Apex Legends is played is still, especially on World's Edge, very building oriented, and we're seeing that with teams like Vizio and even Tyson right now, who despite their low ground position can feel confident given that they've got all of this almost impenetrable cover right next door. In the next 30 seconds, however, things are going to change, and with every subsequent ring, Vizio's position is going to get even more powerful as that same luxury gets denied to other players.
Now here's the thing, Tyson have been playing out Geyser for such an extended period, and actually were dropped quite a few times at the hands of Vizio, having some long-range exchanges. I mean, we saw them down there with the charge rifle only a moment ago. My question is, where does Excedrin come into play? Last time we checked in with them, they were heading far east to playing to the choke just below Geyser, and might be making their way up. Meanwhile, Intelligence, they're making a heavy rotation with utilization of that redeploy and find themselves stuck between a rock and, well, a building, I suppose.
Yeah, we see a very different take on how to enter the ring, on what to do when you absolutely need to get involved. Well, Intelligence have crossed a great distance to get here. They've done so at a heavy cost as well. And the fact that they're not being pushed right now is a miracle. Insanity and Reparations, though, not so lucky. That's two more squads that have gone down. We're into 9 now, and Dutch isn't going to be seeing the end of this game. And Trap Lord may not be so lucky either. Slow inside this building, just have to sit here and watch the world teams burn around them.
Right, you know, Intelligence just only a click away there, and yes, they could be making their way outside to clean this one up for KP, but could be potentially risking it. Granted, maybe stem the Valkyrie. You've got a little bit of the extra mobility to play with that Valk. Doesn't need to be just hoisted up in that corner. Could potentially be more of a fragger-oriented role to at least secure KP, because, I mean, you're building points here, right? And you know for a fact you've got weakness all surrounding you. Take advantage of it.
Now, Vizio are trying to set up for a little bit more safety during that next ring close. Excedrin actually taking chunks out of them from a distance, and we've got another squad waiting to take this zip line across. Not feeling too confident. It may actually be Tyson that are trying to close this gap as well. Yeah, very, very likely, actually. Vizio have a lot to deal with right now, having to look at both sides of the high ground that approaches this building, this grandma's house, and trying to keep control of it has felled many a seasoned squad.
Now, this is tough. You've got quite the split here going into round 5, as you have pieces of Siphon still available on the very cusp of these buildings, where you see Nerf positioned for themselves, but still the massive valley that separates Geyser and in between what is kind of our no-name village up there towards the north. And as a result, you have to wonder where teams are going to put themselves to be in the most dominant position, because crossing that valley late can be such a disadvantage when we talk about the low to high ground disparity.
Look out for Tyson. On this low ground, they at least want supremacy. Already a crack has come through, but Joey is playing this slow. The rest of Tyson not really in a position to capitalize. Lest there be a knock, but double fleshbound already, and pushing up on the Gibraltar is difficult to do. Joey manages to stall things out with the bubble, and then there's a double bubble coming up. I believe he gets the shield bet off in time. A second chance at life. The rest of Tyson have managed to come in to help him out. Joey does eventually go down, but Tyson should... What? Tyson should survive, but never mind?
Tyson! You gotta learn to commit there. They had pressure, they had triple cracks down, but they never followed through. They were so retained in their position, and as a result are punished. Much like apparently Slow, who were inside a super dominant building for such an extended period. I mean, this is the antithesis of Apex right here.
That is so crazy to see a fight turn around like that. Nerf biding time so that they don't have to involve themselves in one of these fights, trying to force teams outside together, keep everyone at bay. But with no doors right now, their safety is very, very limited, and a nice Peacekeeper shot force at least keeps them in the driver's seat for right now. But in this corner, you are never safe for long.
No, we talk about one major ordnance, some gas potentially found, a rotation from their squad. That could spell defeat here. Meanwhile, Excedrin finally moving up from their southern position into where we just saw certified BMers, and now potentially that will be it for them. Eliminate. We know that was pressured out by Vizio, but Excedrin not going to extend themselves any much further. They know they have this rock to work with for that zone 6 and further.
It's crazy that we're seeing this ring pull as well, because normally we'd see teams start to collapse on Grandma's house, recognizing that's where zone was going. Excedrin have rolled this perfectly, however, and for a very unusual zone, this makes it all the more impressive. I believe they're going to get the knock, maybe the kill there. Chug Gunners do go out, but it's to Vizio this time around. Excedrin missing out on a point that instead gets given over to their opposition. They lose ground there, but we've got to hope they can convert on this.
Now here's the problem. Kimchi Lee there with that charge rifle. We talk about not much left in terms of the ammo remaining, and it'll still be useful for the extended rotation here for Zone 5's collapse as all these squads come out of Lava Siphon's kind of extended no-name areas. But at the end of the day, I need to see a switch up. This is not going to be effective when we talk about Zone 6 close.
There's just nobody in the area right now for them to change off of. As soon as teams start dropping, there's going to be a bubble down on a death box. We're going to see that change up that you are demanding for things like an R301, for a flatline, something that you can use in close ranges. But even if Vizio are stalling, recognizing how much open ground is in a ring like this, a charge rifle can get you those 1-2 points that you just need to put you over the edge, to put you on top of the lobby.
This is tough for Vizio. They've got a squad looking to potentially play right up against the edge here. And yeah, it looks like they will attempt to oob, but remember, going into Season 13, this has been nerfed. You no longer can utilize those weapons, and as this one drops full force through here, every squad looks to take advantage of a position like that. Somehow, against all odds, they still remain to survive in the midst of that dome, and now they'll full send it on to Excedrin.
Managing to take high ground with the gravity lift. Excedrin have their shot at life, though. Not intimidated by the team below them. They've been able to survive really well. It's only Lee that's gotten chunked out. And at the moment, dropping down to the low ground is risky. I believe they've gotten a knock in return, but we'll watch Excedrin for how they continue to manage this fight. Brandon on the low ground is their biggest problem, but Vizio are keeping them down as well. Excedrin's capacity to impact this late game is so limited by the amount of eyes on them.
Yeah, at this point here, this rock is such a good source of cover. And look at the pole. The pole could not be more perfect here for Excedrin as it runs right in between that rock. Meanwhile, enemy dropping down. This is going to be the full elimination onto Spectre here. This is potentially the reset that Lee absolutely needs, and that bubble's going to come out immediately like you called here, Dia. Meanwhile, Vizio cleaning up intelligence on their own side to bring us down to our full 3-on-3 here.
Oh,
arguably the two best squads in the lobby and the second win for each of them here today.
This is crazy. Vizio have also managed to get the swap off. No turbo on this. Havoc, though, I am noticing.
Oh,
see who
yeah.
pulls the trigger first, but things are going to get crazy. Vizio want to make the first move. They're the ones on the low ground, but if they let the ring pull Excedrin into them, they will have that staying power advantage. Watch the ordinances. Watch the beams from Blitz as enemy loses all their shields, but a singularity buys a second chance at life. Bubble has finally come up. Vizio managed to use it just in time. A shield battery buying them an extra second or two, and they see a bubble on the other side as well. It's time for the knockdown, drag out Vice. Burton goes down, but Lee gets knocked in return, and with the Mastiff out, it's a 2-tap weapon that Crucian has to face up against. The Ordinance does not save him. The gravity lift takes him right into the hands of Vizio, and a drop down from above, slap to the face, sends Vizio to their second win of Season 5.
Vizio making it clear that they are the dominant victors of Esports Arena. It doesn't matter if they switch up the roster, they are still on top here. And remember, before we had even gotten into this game here, they were positioned well above everyone else on that Mobile 1 leaderboard, and now we'll continue to evolve that gap as we make our way towards Storm Point.
That was such a crazy end game, and think about not just the end game, but what they got on the way. How many times did we say, well, Excedrin is over here, they can't get kills right now, but they're gonna get them in the end game? They picked up a few, but with Vizio able to find the win like that, being able to control so many squads, push them up against Excedrin, and keep this other team from impacting the game, I mean, you've got to imagine that it's not just the win that's putting them in the lead right now.
So something that I think comes down to probably the most crucial moment of that entire spread, and maybe I'm wrong here given the timing, maybe I counted it incorrectly, but Kimchi Lee has to utilize that bubble to go for the weapon swap there with the charge rifle. Mind you, by the way, didn't even go for the full swap. We saw him back to using the charge rifle the next time we checked in with him, so he might have grabbed the weapon, put it somewhere else, but he was still making good use of it. What's more important, though, is that bubble comes out. We go to a quick split-on-split of both the teams, but very almost instantaneously after that, we see enemy fall there, right? Enemy is dropped on the far eastern side of the wall with no safety. Potentially that lengthy rotation out there towards the very, very edge and no bubble to work with to allow for a secured rotation might have been the bane of existence, even though, in my personal opinion, I thought Excedrin were in a better spot.
Yeah, it did look really good for them, but that divide of the team killed them as well as it killed Tyson over here. Big call-outs to Joey Blackout for this play as well, because despite the fact that Tyson ended up falling, Tyson put up a really good fight in the sense that their Gibraltar was able to stall out for a very long time. And that's something that you look for in your Gibraltar players. It's what makes them so difficult to push. I'm glad that we got to see that because Joey is one of the premier Gibraltars in North American Apex Legends right now. And so to see that performance, even though they fell early, even though they've been having a rough time today, I think speaks of hope for them, especially going into Stormpoint.
Yeah, I think Tyson needs to kind of abide by some of the words that we saw during draft day, which is when you're one of those partnered squads, you just got to get out there, get rolling, and start kind of finding success on these open nights, because that's your best chance to accrue points. As pro nights, we both know, get way harder as you really go up against some of the best of the best in terms of pro league.
Yeah, it has been a big day for the open night, and with pro nights coming around the corner, we have got to take a very short break before we transition over to Stormpoint. I want to see what Yeso's got to say. I want to hear your thoughts in the chat as we go into halftime in between World's Edge and Stormpoint. So we'll see you guys there to break down exactly how things have been going here in Series E Season 5.
3 games down and 3 more to go. We do say goodbye to World's Edge for tonight, but Vizio loving that map here as they bookend the first half with 2 victories, and Excedrin right in the middle of that Vizio sandwich. But Vizio with another big win here and closing it out. And interesting enough, a late game that kind of looked like it was actually skewing towards Excedrin, because Excedrin doing a good job of holding on to that black hole, and it looked like Vizio maybe had overextended early in the fight and the patience from Excedrin was going to pay off, but ultimately Vizio hit their shots and they're able to take the win despite Cruzen running for his life there in that final circle. But let's take a look at our champion squad this time around. Last time that we saw a Vizio victory, it was 14 kills for the squad, and they were able to top that this time around by just 15 kills for the team this time around. And look at Blitz there in the damage department, 2,851 damage. That is a huge game there for Blitz. And the team combining for almost 6,000 damage overall. Everybody participating in the kill department. Great assists across the board. So just really a solid team performance front to back there for Vizio. And it's a reason why they are at the top of our Mobile One leaderboard, and they have been really good to start off the day. And it's crazy that we may, be a season later and a different roster, but we may see Vizio open night victories to kick off 2 seasons in a row. So we'll have to find out. Let's check out our Mobile One high performance moment here. Our last one on World's Edge here for tonight. And of course, it is going to be this final circle. And this was the black hole that I thought might turn this fight. But the one thing that Vizio had held on to is that bubble. And it gave Blitz in the squad enough time to breathe and then go for the push. They get the quick knock there onto Kim Shi Lee, and despite Borton going down, the squad able to clean it up. Cruzen does have the tactical available here to try and get a little bit of space, but it wasn't nearly enough. They chase him down, give him the axe to close out the game. So well played from Vizio, and they are strong contenders here in the early on. Of course, we'll have to see how things change when we go over to Stormpoint Intel, a team whose early games have looked really good through the first 3 games, have not been able to finish off strong, and we'll have to see if maybe they can bring that complete game over to the beaches of Stormpoint. Now, before we go to a break and get ready for our second half of the day, I do want to tell you about a little something different we're doing at our arenas all across the country. Of course, we love to run these tournaments like Series E and others that are kind of these big, beefy brackets and others, but some players like yourselves may like to compete in esports in, a little more bite-sized form, and we have the answer right now with PvE. Now, PvE is different than your normal esports competition. It is a leaderboard format. We run 4 different leaderboards every single week at all of our locations across the country, each with their own individual $500 prize pool. The way it works is you head out to your local esports arena, purchase some tokens, and use those tokens to enter in the different leaderboards and then put up your best scores. The leaderboards run from Wednesday through Sunday every single week, and the games and settings change every time around. We run things like Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros. Home Run Contest, Aim Labs, and more. So make sure to check in every single week, see what titles that you can compete in, and try and win some cash. We're taking a look at our good friend Jack in Studio White right now. Jack of Jack's Packs here on the Aim Labs. Try to put up a good score this time around. The nice thing too is you can go in on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, put up a great score, head home. Maybe on a Saturday though, you can check in on one of our 24/7 leaderboard streams that runs on our YouTube channel and see that maybe your score has fallen down the leaderboard, where you can head back in and put up a fresh new score if you're trying to grab that $500 as well as other great prizes. But Jack here hitting almost 44,000 on the score there for Aim Labs. So head out to your local esports arena today. You can use exclamation point locations in Twitch chat right now to find one near you and come out and compete in PvE today. Now we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, as I said, we're headed to the beaches of Stormpoint. We've got 3 games still ahead of us in our first night of Series E Apex Legends Season 5.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to Series E Season 5 Stormpoint Edition. We've just finished up our first 3 games on World's Edge. And Zephyr, I want to take a look at those Mobile 1 leaderboards before we head into Stormpoint to see who's in the lead coming out of halftime.
Right, and it should be to no surprise that it's Vizio here. They come out of Game 3 picking up their second win of the night, and as we checked in with Yeso there only a moment ago, we saw that they netted themselves their highest killed game of the entirety of Open Night here, with 15 kills as well as the 12-point win, netting them 27 points overall. A massive lead now to work with as we approach Stormpoint. That's literally 31 points ahead of the next closest, Intel.
And they're on pace to break 100 points today. And to break
Oh,
100
wow.
points in 6 games is a big statement on any day. But to do it on the first day of Season 5 would be absolutely insane, especially with the caliber of teams, the caliber of players that we are already seeing inside of Season 5. You and I have talked multiple times about how it seems like all of our partnered squads from season to season keep taking steps up. Vizio continue to carry forth the legacy of the team that left that title behind, and moreover, could just set a record for our very first day. I'm looking forward to seeing how it breaks down, but it will require a lot more than they showed us on World's Edge because, as you and I have talked about in many different words, Stormpoint gets crazy.
Yeah, we talk about it. Biggest map, most open disparity in terms of cover, some crazy end zones that no one is ever really able to predict, and obviously the lack of practice that has come through on this map make for unexpected potentials and endings, and even for not just our partnered squads, but some of those who are just joining us here on Open Night. This is your opportunity to find success through that chaos here. One last point, though, before we make our way into Game 4. Something that I love looking at this Mobile 1 leaderboard is the fact that Intel here, alongside both Nerf and Excedrin, are our 2nd through 4th teams, and then our new rosters between Tyson here and Razer are sitting lower on the leaderboard here. So there is kind of that consistency among those who have played with us in seasons before. It's just Vizio is this insane outlier.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if we get the same sort of consistency on this map, especially with the way that I think a lot of teams will have shifted up their drop spots. One of the teams that I am excited for that is not a partnered squad going into, oh my god, Vizio are already fighting, going into this map. I was going to say his dexterity, but I'll have to hold the point because Buff Pathfinder are yeeting themselves with nowhere to go. This is another one of the situations where you're at the edge of the map, there's just nothing to do, but they found intelligence, interestingly enough.
Well, they find Knee Reaper there. Love the reset utilized from Plug Cube to get the full shield health back on the back end of that execution. Now we're going to be able to turn around and start putting damage down here on Intel. Mind you, only 51 bullets available on that Havoc here as a Pathfinder are dropped down. Bursty. This takes it to a standard 2v2.
A little worried about how this fight's playing out. There's a lot of chaos right now. Bloodhound does put Plugged Cube in a difficult spot with that scan. Havoc not doing him a lot of favors either. We could see Buff Pathfinder going out very quickly as Noah's still trying to loot up, find the right angle. Shenanigans are already out, though. We're down to 18 squads, and while all of this has been happening off in the east, it's clear that the rest of the map has still been doing that standard thing that happens when we swap over to Stormpoint for the first time, where we all remember who actually plays what spots again.
Yeah, I was about to say, you kind of come through Open Night, you know, into Season 4, and you have some consistencies working up against a lot of these squads time and time again, but these aren't the same squads. I mean, these are fresh faces here, not just between our partners teams, but honestly, for me, looking at some of our Open members, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of these players across the board here, so they're definitely figuring things out. Intelligence are going to finally fall all the way out there towards Cliffside Depot as, yes, Excedrin putting some work down with the 30-30. Kimchi Lee from afar. I mean, name Kimchi and some marksmen. I mean, it could not go any better.
It's so wild. I don't want to see him with the bow because I feel like it would emasculate me. I've put so much time into getting good with the bow check for absolutely no reason, and I feel like Kimchi we would just destroy everything that I've worked so hard for. Excedrin continue to dominate, though, as enemy starts pushing up. A very risky spot, of course, is when they get into close ranges. There's a lot more variability in what the squad will be able to do, but Excedrin seem to have put themselves in a place where they feel comfortable with it. Despite the fact that there are no knocks going down, we'll see how these health pools end up sorting out. Thermite buys a little bit more time. Another Arc Star goes in. Enemy splits the difference, but around the corner comes Krosin, and it's a nasty beam with the car that finds Flesh.
Car down there, but it does push Cruisin back for the time being. Excedrin have to reapproach their angles as they themselves were also punished, but this Horizon is just not paying attention. Just not paying attention. Now 2 members down, leaving 1 to go. A full wipe there, and on top, Reg will be eliminated.
Huge props to Cruisin for the way that they were able to negotiate that fight, and for Lee for playing anchor as oh my lord, to Lee for playing anchor as well. I know that we're not going to get to see the rest of that just yet. Technical issues. We'll wait for an update from production, but big call out there because to have a Horizon be able to ditch a fight, great mechanics. To have the follow-up Horizon be punished, that's just a good Gibby player.
You caught me in the middle of my drink, and I wasn't going to allow a server crash to prevent me from finishing it, okay? But yeah, at that point there, obviously, you all know that we've been having some slight lobby issues here with Apex. So with all that being said, we're going to toss this one to a quick break, and when we come back, hopefully our 4th game on Stormpoint. You won't want to miss it.
What am I to do with this? For the game and it's game, but I'm finna handle it. Break it down like an analyst. I be loading up, they wanna package this. Pray for peace, pacifist. I'm never old enough to give a promise.
What's up, folks? Right back here at Series E. We are right back into the action. A fresh Game 4. And on board with Nerf looting up. We did have to restart due to some server issues, and we'll be keeping our eyes on that for the time being. But Stormpoint is underway, version 2, Zephyr.
Right, and now if you're wondering why you see this down at 50 and not currently the full 60 that you may be used to, we did let the servers run for just a little bit so we might get some interpretation whether or not this was going to crash again. So that's why you see this one maybe a little bit further into the match than expect, but still, with 17 squads remaining, plenty of competitive Apex to take a look at.
Ticked down to 17 as we were talking as well, so the pace is really not slowing down. But interestingly enough, we've got a very familiar ring pull to a lot of these squads going on for our second round. Moving up towards the north, over by North Pad, and largely pulling out into the open is something that a lot of teams will have seen in Pro League, will have seen in Series E for all the time that has passed during Season 4, and I'm expecting especially our partnered squads to look good with this pull specifically, despite the injection of chaos.
Right. Well, it's a bit of a shame the way the game ends last time around, especially with a quick exchange there between Excedrin as they cleaned up, I believe, what was Reg. Correct me if I'm wrong, but either way, a fantastic sight that maybe will be replicated here once again. Meanwhile, Zone pulling hard north. When we get zones like this, they tend to finish directly in the area that you see Tyson currently flying over. Sometimes our hot dog building out there towards the left, sometimes some of these trenches or the more minuscule pineapple domes out there towards the east. For Tyson, we're going to be going for right smack dab in the center.
I'm a little worried about Joey. I know that Tyson and Nerf were actually looking at landing in a very similar spot, both aiming for this, I believe, octagonal building, although I'm not sure about the shape. I hope my geometry teacher isn't watching this. Tyson, however, do get first dibs, and with the squad landing on them, should be able to defend adequately, despite the fact they didn't have enough time to set up defenses. Respect is paid to them, and we've got another squad occupying on the low ground right next door.
Vizio, our big leaders right now here in the overall leaderboard, currently a massive 30 points ahead here. And, you know, we talk about making statements. Well, maybe potentially this is a statement in itself here. Tyson into the trenches there. They've got quite the lockdown on this building, but fences are being broken. Pressure is pushed back. Sadly, that singularity not effective.
I really like that Tyson do take this extra bit of space, though. It costs them just a few seconds. It exposes them to very minimal risk, but because they managed to lay that fence down, they get just an extra measure of safety that could be priceless as the game continues.
Well, for Tyson there, they actually pull back to the building. They weren't going to find themselves into the fray too quickly there, given as early as this game is, and with the prevalence of some of those squads out there towards the north, it could be much of a risk. Now, for Razer, haven't had the best of performances when we talk about overall for maybe just the entirety of some of our open squads here today, and they're taking for a slow rotation just outside the north of Jurassic Park here. For now, though, taking their time, mind you, are utilizing that Bloodhound.
This was one of the things that I was really excited for when I saw Razer get picked up on draft day as well, and they actually touched on this themselves, that the thing that they keep returning to, even when they're having bad games, is this very simple idea of just playing their own game. And I know it sounds almost exceedingly simple, too much so, but with Optimal Ambition, or rather, formerly Optimal Ambition, it was always something that was unusual to see because they like to run these off-meta compositions. They like to pick up the Bloodhound. They like to sometimes grab that crypto and see what it can do. And so the fact is that while Razer's had a difficult day so far, I want to see if they can return to that sort of quote that they left us with at the end of draft day, see if they can play their game and what they can get out of that.
Meanwhile, some of our more no-named entities here left to look to defend. The R99 providing the beams necessary to keep this dome in action here. It's a good crack found there. It's going to give the opportunity for Gotti to get that battery off and potentially continue to defend here. Drop down to the line, going to pull back here. It's a double one-on-one situation. Arc on arc here. Crack found Gotti behind below there. Dodges out the ordnance, and now we'll turn right back around to finish off Chug Gunnas.
That was really close as well. Shotgun in the hands of Chuggunnas, but with Gotti able to really clutch up with the R99 beams, you get a second chance at life inside this lobby. Dexterity just off to the south are continuing with a very different way of playing the game, a much more mobile one as they dip and dive all around the map, making their way up to North Pad, and it looks like they want that beacon for a little bit of extra information before they settle down on a spot they want to play in the late game.
Everyone wants the beacon. It's like birds to food.
Yes, birds.
It's like most things.
Name a better
to food.
combo.
I was about to say
Yeah.
most things are pretty aggressive when it comes to food. All right, I know we're getting off topic, but I just want to check. What do you think? Which animal hungers for food the hardest?
Ooh, I feel like it's got to be like a jellyfish or something, like
All
something
right.
that literally
you're
has
out of
nothing
pocket.
else.
You're out of pocket.
I'm out of pocket. Are you trying to say out of line? Out of pocket is like when you pay for something yourself.
Oh my God, you are so old.
Wait, am I trolling? Like, what? Does this have a new
Oh
millennial
my
meaning?
gosh.
What's happening?
Millennial? Dia, I am Gen Z. Jeez. I was
Wait,
born
what-
2001. Don't forget it.
What does out of pocket mean?
If
not-
like, no cap. You're out of pocket.
Oh.
Like,
oh.
that cover there, that was out of pocket. I mean, what are you doing? Get behind the rocks there, buddy.
Okay. I think I don't understand, but I also think that I'm willing to let it go because I don't think I'm going to understand. We're going to derail this even further. So, we'll talk about something I do understand. Tyson cresting this rock right now. Tyson getting aggressive. That's something I'm used to seeing. And the beams not finding a knock there is not something that I would have expected. With the cracks coming in, it's a matter of time, I would think, before Tyson collects these kills. A few shots from afar, though, and Oxy Aries has to take a little reset with these shield cells. Res going off inside, revealed by the highlights, is going to not be interrupted as Ares actually gets shotgunned on the way out, unable to leave with the verticality of this Valkyrie, and we've got a third party rocking up on this as well, so Joey has a limited timer to pick up his Valkyrie.
At this point here, you're also being pressured from Dexterity on the inside.
Oh!
Lee Davis, mind you, goes in, drops a shot, knocks Wave there, and Tyson, though, will be eliminated as Reg, as you said, coming through to third party. This one out, Singularity down, now onto the inside below there. PK's making short work of all here, as one last standing member will do them in.
Nice patience from ClickZ at the end, waiting to line up that Peacekeeper shot perfectly, not panicking. Despite the rough start that Reg had on Storm Point, they have shifted that up, and they took masterful control of that third party. I think a lot of teams, especially those that I play ranked with, will just kind of go for it, but that was a really cool way to end up finding themselves a few extra kills, and it looks like it's left Nerf looking pretty good as well. Two-manning it up?
2 men. This might be something to do with the roster issues, but hey, I mean, server issues, but at the end of the day, they are still coming out on top in terms of the placement. But obviously, being a two-man roster is something that can be very difficult when we start talking about a little bit towards that late game here. Now, Excedrin, this was a squad that performed highly before we had our server reset, taking an incredible fight against Riggin. May look to do the same here now on this squad below. They've played the building fights before, and they can do it once more, but that defensive bombardment, it's going to force rotation. I like Cruising, though. Not going to be hit by any of these. Actually finds his way for a perfect angle with the 301.
Nice ditch as well, just keeping on board with the movement, right? Excedrin not committing too far to anything, and actually seemed to be disengaging really heavily. I really liked that Cruisin ditched after the initial beam, but to get all the way up to this high ground speaks to the fact that maybe they see a third party incoming that I didn't.
Well, for Excedrin there, maybe it was the potential upset of having to deal with bad angles, right? I mean, you don't have the best setup. We've seen time and time again how Tyson have potentially kind of come into fights too aggressively off the successful positioning of one member. But as we reapproach just towards the south here, no, I think you were right, Dia. Intel was spotted out potentially a distance away that could have come into third party here.
Some really nice eyes, some really nice shot calling that we've got to appreciate on Excedrin as well. To see what even we with the highlights were struggling to really piece together. Intel end up paying that same respect, knowing that with Excedrin watching over from the high ground, it's going to be difficult for them to push through checkpoint. And I like that even now you have to give up that beacon, but it's very worthwhile to be able to survive a few extra minutes. Certified Beamers in the meantime pick up a kill and will move themselves a little bit further into Cascade Falls. There's no real rush here, and you've got a replicator right next door, so I'd expect them to show up in the end game as a bit of a powerhouse.
Meanwhile, Intel, hard rotation out here towards the west of checkpoint, now trying to kind of climb their way into the fray here. James Fearless does take a poised portion of damage, but will have the opportunity to pull back, get that bat off before they potentially assault against Excedrin. But granted, I wonder if this is going to be another one of those gentlemen's handshakes that we saw just a second ago, because you have to respect that squad towards the south. You can't just both show up, see the squad, and say, nah, never mind, we're going to take it toe-to-toe here and throw both of our chances away.
I think we've got a Valk going off here and a nice call as well. Like you talked about, this sort of gentleman's agreement that comes from knowing that both of you have an equal chance of dying right now. Buff Pathfinder, in the meantime, seems like they had a 100% chance of finding the kills. Intelligence just got deleted, and Buff Pathfinder actually dipped right back into the zone, going down towards the wall and covering their exit with the grenades. I like this look from them because it's one heck of a way to play with the zone.
And what's nice for them is they have a small pocket there to potentially work with, or the quick rotation out from the wall. Granted, directly into the north could be a little bit difficult. You have to worry about who might be hoisting themselves directly in some of those kind of pineapple-esque dome buildings that we know for a fact are still in dome. But for Buff Pathfinder, they've got a ways to go, and I also like the fact that they live up to the name. The Fuse for zone control, but the Pathfinder there for the pressure.
It's definitely a lot of skirmishing capability, and we'll see if they can involve themselves in a few more fights later. Razer already involved in one here. We talked about playing their game. Well, now that game is under pressure. We've already got 2 knocked, and it's looking like a third as Box of Tea gets taken down. Give no respect. Claim yet another squad's life over by these pineapples.
Yeah, right there for give no respect. They already automatically see the other squad from behind. That might be Buff Pathfinder just coming out of the wall there. Meanwhile, Certified BMers continuing to find themselves in the hot seat. Slow Super Brethren there, taken down. Curious where the rest of the slow roster has put themselves.
I just want to acknowledge this, by the way, that we have 2 totally different takes on what this name is, and I'm okay with that because I don't think that it's very clear. You've decided that it's Certified BMers, and I saw it and decided that it was Certified Beamers, and I honestly looked at the capitalization, checked it a few times, and have come to no conclusions.
I'm sure they have an answer for us behind the scenes, but speaking of which answers to be had here, can Excedrin pull off the same ferocity that they did in before the server reset? Now, granted, enemy already on force there. That's only 1 remaining member of Nerf, and it'll be plugged cube from the other side who finishes the job here, but this leaves this entire area open for Excedrin to kind of come up from behind and potentially work with. Oh, but that dome prevents them.
Nice, so does the ring as well. Notice that with that creeping in, Lee can't actually stay down here. Can't find a shield swap either. Finally manages to pick one off the fresh kill, but cover is getting fewer and further between. You talked about the sort of erratic way that Stormpoint decides who lives and who dies. And Excedrin are getting the short end of the stick right now, but making do with it really well.
It's not much cover to work with, but they've got that squad on the low ground there, and that's pressuring Kimchi Lee back. The dome may come out fairly shortly here as, the ring of fire there from Fuse will push them back as they'll take a tick of burn, but they still have so much space to kind of work with. That fire wasn't quite right on top of them.
You don't see that every day, though. The Fuse ultimate being really a decisive factor in that push, and now defensive bombardment delayed is still very effective in forcing out even more meds, putting Excedrin in an even worse position. They've got another defensive bombardment coming down on top of them, and that short end of the stick is just getting shorter and shorter, whittling away at their lifeline. With another grenade coming in here as well. It's a miracle that Cruzen is alive. That singularity is desperation, and an Arc Star is not going to find any purchase as a very nice bit of focus from the opposite end destroys that singularity almost as soon as it came up. These knuckle clusters are just shredding Excedrin.
there's little to no resources left here for Excedrin, but still, they managed to keep themselves well and alive here as they defend against all of this pressure. Meanwhile, Vizio Sung there with the 30-30, the dirty there. A headshot found, but not quite the crack.
So safe underneath this little bunker as well. With the fact that they've got Sung on this caustic, the gas provides them so much space, so much confidence inside of this building, and now looking out, seeing a double bubble go out down here, they can approach this fight with even more confidence should they want to go for the third party. 10 squads are left, and Vizio end up biding their time, not wanting to push up on this just yet, even though Intel are almost certainly going down. Fearless manages to clutch it up. Certified beamers go out. Fearless gets the swap and manages to survive for now. Intel alive, but at what a cost.
Right, 9 squads left remain. You've still got quite a bit to go in terms of waiting out the potential placement there. And Vizio now coming through to clean up some of the KP, and as I'm more than sure that's Intel coming back on the end there, playing right up against the wall. Vizio has no chill. I mean, they come through, finish the job. James Fearless eliminated, taking us down to 7.
Ring closing in as well, pushes Vizio right back into home sweet home, the bunker from whence they came. Patience rewarded Vizio in Game 3, and it's looking like Game 4, though a different map, is no different in the way that it plays out. Excedrin, having survived, have relocated up to this hill, still running very low on the meds, though, and they're under fire from a few squads. It's not just the one that was underneath the armory. We've got even a second taking pot shots at them. It might very well be Reg from all the way over in these pineapples.
And this makes me scared. Enemy, no shielding coming through. They do not have the resources to work with anymore. All that pressure sustained from those knuckle clusters, that zoning control, is now coming to bite back onto Excedrin. They make this heavy off rotation. They need a refresh here. They need to take out a squad, use some of the death boxes before they find their way to defeat. For now, though, Singularity.
Nice focus as well. Arcstar, again, not going to find anyone, but enemy's lifeline is running short. And for somebody on Excedrin who relies on getting the off angle, not having shields is a death sentence. Nice swap off from Cruisin', pops him over with that shield bat, and gives them a second chance at the next engagement. Reg have ended up going down, and we're into the top 5. It's a good run for Excedrin, but they're just not giving up. That has been their story this game.
Mind you, Vizio finally finding their way out from their low ground valley here now with a perfect pressure of control there. A massive crack found. Sung now trying to rain forward with the control as well, but is quickly eliminated from afar. Now the wingman shots from Borton not quite landing. The missiles as well. Gonna be forced to rotate back from whence they came here, as Blitz will also be taken as low as can be.
Borton, no safety right now, just barely gets inside of this bubble, and for beyond the grave, Sung is going to have to provide them with safety. A singular barrel in here is the only thing between them and death, as Excedrin on a roll, on a rampage outside, are finding cracks with the defensive bombardment, are pushing up, are tanking another singularity, but are running low on life. Excedrin have lost Lee, and in a 2, a 1 versus 3, they are finally going to meet their end. 4 teams left, and give no respect, claim another life.
Mind you, that was Vizio's Blitz from afar to start that one off. Came through with the charge rifle, and while they may not fall initially, Vizio are still in a heavy situation here. Give no respect. They know that dome is coming down, and there is no cover for Vizio to work with.
They've got nothing to do right now. You wait, because both bonus are going to destroy you. We're going to get give no respect, claiming yet another life. But it's a 2 versus 2 right now. So bonus have a very limited amount of time to be able to actually clean this up. Farmer Lucas pushing forward, can't risk too much, doesn't even have a full health bar, and it's just Gotti out here. 1 versus 2. Surely bonus have this in the bag.
At this point, you can go for full reset as long as you want there with cracks like that. It only takes one good angle, and love the rotation for Firma Lucas right to the backside of the rock. Climbs back up, finishes the job, and bonus are your champions of Game 4.
That was a very nicely played end game from bonus, recognizing that really they had no time to push up on that. Give no respect, able to claim the the life of Void as well, and it felt like at the end, our partnered squads were just sort of running out of gas at the same time they were running out of cover.
Yeah, I mean, arguably that is a really tough... I know, it's silly. We'll fix it in a second, but arguably it is a very tough end zone to play there. We talk about the trenches, the lack of cover that exists. I mean, it is as chaotic as it gets, and that's why Storm Point is as crucial as it becomes in terms of the map switch and why some of our open squads perform better.
Yeah, this, I think, really set the tone of the game. We saw the fight with Give No Respect over by the Pineapples really early on, and they sort of kept that very same attitude going, and it wasn't just them, but constantly we were getting these very scrappy fights. I'm remembering the one with Buff Pathfinder and Excedrin that just was so long and drawn out with fuse ults, knuckle clusters, no team ever saying die, and it's so difficult on Stormpoint to actually find the angles to finish off these fights even when you do have an advantage. Despite that, our partner squads did do really well, and I would say the majority of them actually looked quite confident, given that this was our first game on Stormpoint of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we're still finding success out of them, albeit not as dominant as it was on World's Edge. Granted, that's just due to the fact that there's so many more variables to take into account there. Still, we do see the pedigree of skill kind of in the same order. You do have Razer kind of following first, with Tyson not too far behind, and then you have that big gap that is still forming among what is Intel right now alongside Nerf, and between that of Vizio and Excedrin. And they were going right there until the very, very end there. And it was so close. And it's funny because Excedrin, were that full 3-man roster, had the potential to kind of run that one forward, but it was Vizio sneaking up from behind. The 2-man just lost the one, come through with the charge rifle, and actually put themselves ahead of Excedrin when it counted.
Yeah, these two squads are neck and neck. They are fighting with everything that they've got, and I'm really curious to see how it ends up on the leaderboards. But before that, I'm even more curious to hear what Yeso made of our very first game of Season 5 on Stormpoint. Let's hear it directly from him, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Finally, the open squads able to stop the tear that the partnered squads were on in that first half, as bonus come up with the win here in our first game on Stormpoint. We both saw Excedrin and Vizio in that late game. They were in the mix, but unfortunately they weren't able to grab the win, and bonus comes out on top. Let's check out our champion squad here from game number 4, and there's a familiar name on this squad that you may recognize. It's our good friend Farmer Lucas there. 1,700 damage there, 2 kills and 4 assists, and Sleepy Panda and Yams bringing the damage as well. Sleepy Panda specifically over 2,600. It's a really good look there. The champions there in game number 4 coming out really strong. But it has been the partnered squads up at the top of the standings, and this is not likely to change that in any significant way, but we'll have to see maybe on Stormpoint if bonus can jump themselves up into that conversation. They only have 2 games remaining, though, to get that work done. Let's check out our Mobile One high performance moment here from game number 4. And it is in this late circle. Vizio getting into the top 3, but down sung between a rock and a hard place here. And look, it's just bonus up the far edge of the circle. They have the high ground. Sleepy Panda with that charge rifle doing some work, and of course Farmer Lucas gets beaming here with the car, goes in for the push with the tactical here momentarily, because Gotti, despite having that red armor, all by their lonesome, and that's just good shots from Lucas. And while not quite able to land the shots here, Sleepy Panda takes care of business, cleans up that last player, and a good finish from bonus to grab the win. And now we head to game 5, waiting to see if maybe the open teams can keep things going. Remember, we started Vizio, Excedrin, Vizio for the winners, and finally the open squads on the board. So we'll see what happens next. We're going to a break right now. When we come back, game number 5 of our first open night of the season.
Excedrin.
I'm fading!
One bad headache can crash your entire game.
Excedrin relieves headaches fast.
Excedrin, game over for headaches.
for nothing, baby. Let's get in there.
Welcome back, folks. We've got yet another game coming up. In fact, we've got another two, because that was just our first foray onto Storm Point. And bonus coming out on top. Should have shot themselves up the Mobile One leaderboard. So let's go ahead and take a look, Zephyr.
Right, we know for a fact that overall today our partner squads have been putting themselves well above the rest, and they continue to do so. But bonus's win does net them a tie for 4th right now between Nerth, both sitting at 33. But Dia, you said it earlier, Vizio, that's the elephant in the room. 76 points, continuing to accrue so much here, on their way to potentially, a massive win, but not only that, but potentially our first triple-digit point scoring of any squad here for Series E Season 5.
34 points. That's all they need. That's
24.
all they need. 24. Oh my God, you're right.
24.
24 points. It's even less. I see the 7. It doesn't matter. Holy moly, that's wild. So that's doable as well. I think that's the crazier thing, is that we're looking at that not only going, it's possible, but we're going, it's likely. It's looking really good if you're a fan of Vizio at home, and I think that it's safe to say that we all should be after seeing the way that Season 5 has started.
It's crazy to see a complete roster switch up, but still the same level of dominance, and it makes me sad, because one of the biggest questions in terms of narrative that we had last season was, wow, Intel, they put together this phenomenal roster, but the problem is they come in super late in the season. Right? There's only 8 weeks left to play. Intel's got this new roster. They're blaring out of the gates and being extremely competitive right up against Vizio, but due to the fact that it was such a delayed start, they never were able really to climb up behind them. And right now, going through draft day, we're expecting Intel to be the clear leading pack, divisors, team winners of Season 5, but Vizio, this Void roster, has said otherwise.
It's insane to watch happen in front of us, especially because, as you talked about, the history behind Void, and I think what you and I were talking about actually before the show, what used to be Neanderthals, is so deep, but at the same time, I think Intel, or I forget what they used to be called in Challenger Circuit.
GeForce?
They've GeForce.
No.
No. Yeah, Intel. I'm not gonna get it. We're not gonna get it. I'll look it up later. But despite the fact that they, I think, were one of the very young buck talent squads that came up in Challenger Circuit that are still having difficulty contesting with that history. It has to be recognized, though, that coming up, being in second right now, is still a really big win for them, because the performance of Vizio is insane. But when we consider what one can expect as a marker of success coming into the season, Intel and Excedrin are still very much hitting that.
Yeah, obviously we're playing, with point differences of 20 and 40, right? We're nowhere close to the hundreds of points that separate in terms of the overall standings when we talk about Series E. And the conversation of relegation shouldn't even be on our minds right now. This is week 1 of 16, but obviously, it's to give us our impressions of what is to be expected for the long haul here.
And sort of where these teams can look to grow as well. It's a lot easier to identify for squads like Razer and Tyson that, though very new, still need to, dial things in to be able to tango with the rest of the partnered squads. But for teams like Vizio, and especially, I think, Intel, it must be a little bit frustrating to be looking at this game and going, I'm not sure what we should be doing better. I'm not sure exactly how this should be going. We'll see how they adapt in the weeks to come, and see how they adapt in these games as well, because though we did have just that first game of Storm Point, I'm expecting the second one to be very different. Our pace is still right at the same level. We've still got 17 squads remaining right now, but especially when we approach that late game, I'm expecting there to be a lot more slow, controlled play than we saw last game.
Yeah, I think teams have gotten an idea, especially regarding where they might find themselves on the Storm Point map and who they could potentially run into, or at least where the danger lies. So for now, most have decided to make their own impressions here. I will say, we do see intelligence fall once again fairly early on here, so not really able to catch Reg, unlike a squad such as Boom. Boom. Meanwhile, Reg also to drop at the hands of Nerf here on the outskirts of the down beast.
Very, very different game for them. I mean, I knew that we had that sort of redo of game 1 when they had a difficult start, but it seems like the second version of it actually had Reg doing quite well. Nerf put a very swift end to that. It's another uprising, of course, of a partnered team, but to see them killed out here in the middle of nowhere begs the question as to what exactly happened to put Reg in this situation.
Yeah, it's tough. We don't ever get to really catch it after it's said and done, but all we can do is interpret here. Either way, Nerf kind of being on the slower end of some of the higher top 4 teams, but still finding success. I mean, there's nothing to shy away about playing a whole season of Series E. That is definitely something to work with, and while they weren't ever truly the strongest in comparison to any other one of our squads, it's still one to be worried about here.
Now, Intel, one of the squads that is still on the come up, I think are going to have a really big explosive season. But it is going to require a little bit more gelling from them. Because while they have wowed us, it's been mostly the synergy between Fearless and Mooney that got me going on World's Edge. Impulse, while a very talented player, is on a slightly different page right now. And so whether it gets fixed today or whether we can look for this in the course of the days, the weeks to come, as Intel gets more practice, as they get more literal just time spent in the same room playing Apex or not, that's where these guys are really going to shine.
At the end of the day, you still have the kind of cracked potential of James Fearless to carry through a lot of these fights, even if they aren't all on the same page. It's just kind of those final moments where you need the perfection to net yourself that win. Meanwhile, we check in with Razer, possibly one of our lowest performing partnered teams here today, making their way all the way up towards Stormcatcher. Quick read, but no one is caught out as of yet.
Nice job with the scan as they land as well. We both know gravity cannons are a pretty spooky time. A lot of teams opting out of taking those as often as possible because, well, you can show up and into a bunch of Watson fences. You can show up and even if you don't see anyone, you just give up a lot of data on yourself, on your position. Seems like right now Razer has been spotted as a bit of a charge rifle, was shown overhead. They're not in danger just yet. Instead, we're going to check in with Bonus on their own journey into the ring.
Right, and as Yeso said, these are some extremely familiar names that everyone should recognize. Obviously, Sleepy Panda coming off of that recent RCO roster that you might have seen kind of competing through the recent splits of Challenger Circuit. And of course, Farmer Lucas going all the way back, being a competitor in the Apex scene for an extended time period.
Yeah, Farmer Lucas is a really storied IGL. I think a lot of people will recognize, it's kind of obvious, will recognize him from Farm Boys, but also from Noble, or what Farm Boys eventually became, which was Noble. People will also likely recognize Impulse from there as well. And so, you know, this roster, despite the fact that it is separated, still has a lot of talent sort of littering the Apex scene. We talked about Rakanishu earlier, who is very much doing well in the scene at the same time. So it's more of a matter of when these players get to experience their greatness, their heights again, than a matter of if. Chug Gunnas, on the other hand.
Chug Gunnas had a really strong start today. And just haven't been able to kind of reel that one back in. Went up toe-to-toe against Vizio and Excedrin in the final moments of our, I believe it was our Skyhook end, and didn't really show up in the fight, but the positioning definitely kind of kept them competitive, but slowly throughout the day, they've just been, you know, falling off.
A lot of gas in the tank to start off with, and I think that that's something else that we don't talk about too much, but that is a big difference in experience between our partnered and open team and open night squads, is that ability to actually go for 6 games of Apex Legends in a row. This is something that I think a lot of people were getting used to during the first initial seasons, and now that we've gotten to this point, the seasoned players that have made their way in and out of a lot of pro splits find themselves really relaxed when it comes to being able to take on these 6 games and actually play at the very top level that they can, whereas a lot of open night squads that want to try out competitive for the first time, this is where they fall short.
Well, definitely a stronger lull in comparison to the high-tempo aggression that we've seen game after game, but that might be disrupted here as Razer has spotted an opposer. Now, they know they're there, and they're going to give away their position immediately with those wingman shots from Blakeu.
No bubble up just yet, so confidence not really backed up by the beam. Blakeu receives a lot of damage in return, though, getting taken relatively low with an Arc Star coming in to interrupt any potential heals. There's still a really bad off angle here, and the thing is that Razer, even though it doesn't look like it, are sandwiched because there's a team above them in command center as well. So as they back into this corner, there's nowhere for them to go.
They might have no clue about this, too, but granted, they are keeping this one fairly forward paced here right along the stair. They make no impression that they're going to be finding their way out, but granted, Box of Tea completely separated on the side there. Granted, he does find the crack onto that Gibraltar, and this might be the full set.
Waiting for a moment as wingman shots don't quite connect. Razer can't quite get this push off the ground, but the fact they forced out a bubble is really big, and Box of Tea continues to fight it out. 1 versus 2 in this case, and actually pulls a lot of attention, bringing Blakeu over to help him out. Bubble goes down defensively. Box of Tea going to choose instead to push up, apply a little bit of pressure, and then lay down the shield. Bat frag on the outside going to expire before the bubble does, and now with the fence on the top, it's time for Razer to fight this out in close quarters. They lose Blakeu, and they lose Box of Tea. It's just up to Nades in the 1 versus 1. Can he pull this out?
Playing around his teammate's shields. Ooh, a good cross-section there from Oxy to wrap around the right side to finish off the job for Razer, and Tyson looks good in doing so. Granted, I need to see that quick revive from Joey potentially, but just as soon as it might come through there, another squad has arrived.
Second time this has happened, though, with Tyson being able to take down their rivals. We'll see if they make it up here in time. With Z Davis, sort of a foregone conclusion. They're going to have to play this out as a two-man, much like Nerf did earlier. The Bloodhound scan coming in behind them still leaves Tyson relatively healthy. It's a pretty easy, or a much easier time, rather, to hold up here at the top of the zip lines. And I like the fact that they get this little bit of respite, despite the fact that it feels bad to have Z Davis go down so far away.
Yeah, it's very likely that we'll see that box defended until it is timed out in full completion there. So Tyson very likely to have to run the two-man. Meanwhile, we check in with Intel. Haven't had the strongest of starts here, usually kind of being on more of an aggressive foot in terms of the early game, at least from what we saw in most of our matches today, are just kind of slowly finding their way into Zone 2 right now.
Yeah, no, I guess they haven't encountered too much resistance because most teams have started prioritizing buildings and high ground.
Right.
That Intel have just now started to crest up towards that command center that we've seen be the focus of the action in this 5th game of the day. Intel going to have to take a risk moving up here, but first, let's hit up that beacon and see where this zone is going, see what sort of game we're going to have. Certified Beamers continue to throw it into command center, so I'd like to see the game continue to pull over here.
I don't even think I've seen a command center finish, but either way, it looks like they want it to end here. Already found the crack there onto our Bloodhound. Going to keep following through down towards the stairwell, but just barely don't catch the end. That Bloodhound is running.
Yeah, he is a fast boy. Might even have the ult going right now as Certified Beamers are checking every corner, are playing this very carefully, and it ends up paying off.
Yeah, but that was not secured there by Certified BMers. That was on the other end.
I think it was bonus.
Yeah, bonus there. RCO Sleepy Panda picking up a majority of kills somewhere else on the map. So this fight is still well within the potential here, but given the fact that I believe that was our two-man Tyson squad, I mean, we only saw 2 on our scan, it's likely that they're just to run here.
Yeah, no reason to push out of command center just yet, but we've seen this claim a lot of lives sitting in this corner, so a relocation is what I would advise, at least initially. Taking a little bit of time and looting up, not hurting them though, and we'll see if they're actually able to get out through the top, because we also know that there was a squad sitting up here, despite the fact that Z Davis did go down. We've still got Tyson that could be gatekeeping, could be ready with the nades, with the beams, and a few shots outside. Signal that very well may be the case.
Dexterity taking their time in the storm here. Is this... man, remember your post. Is this storm stacking?
Yeah, it's almost, or at least close enough to it that I like using the cool name. Intel, in the meantime, have found another team that may very well have been doing the same thing. Spotting them entering a pill-like building. One of the ones that I despise on Stormpoint, by the way, because this building is awful for cover. I feel like we're about to see exactly why. Intel just popping in. I found that another hot dogless bun is unoccupied, given a little bit of a bamboozle right now. His Impulse, again, is forced to chase down yet another squad using this jetpack. I don't think we're going to see any kills here just yet, because nobody really seems interested in standing their ground and fighting.
Well, Impulse does source out this kind of final remember here, and with the wingman will provide shots, but none of them are to land. In return, though, taking quite the beam there from Yams afar. Intel now down to their 2 members. Moody's got to make some moves.
Impulse looks like he's going to get rezzed in this time. Yams not actually pushing down, but still taking the head off of Moody right there.
Unnecessary. That is just rude.
I gotta say, Zephyr, one of the things that I like the least about the situation that Intel are in right now is that if they are put in a position where they have to Valk out, that it doesn't look like they are, but that Valk is really difficult to make work in the rings like this specifically, when Intel have to move up to the high ground, because the actual height that Valk gives you is almost entirely canceled out by the angle of the terrain in front of you. Seems like they're able to walk it in, though. That is what we like to see. Exedtron, in the meantime, holding down their little corner of heaven up here by Stormcatcher, are actually looking pretty comfortable as we approach the late game.
Yeah, there's not much they have to worry about in terms of that eastern side. Sometimes the zone does finish out over there, but just as I say that, we've got another squad pulling up through from that angle. Tyson is eliminated. Meanwhile, enemy with the bow check here, putting down potentially some damage with the arrows. There we go. That's the crack. That's the knock.
Let's go! Enemy picking up the kills with the bow check, doing me proud out here, and a increasingly difficult situation to escape as well, as the singularity from Cruisin spells the end of Spectre Esports. Of all of the non-partnered squads, Spectre were doing the best, and they just had to kiss that goodbye.
Excedrin here looking to make up for lost time after their performance in Game 4 here. Remember, they were taken down early by Vizio in their potential chances to win that one out here. Now, not going to leave anything up to chance. Very quickly clear up their backside, which is probably one of the most difficult things to do safely, given the fact that you clearly see plethora of squads watching them out there from Stormcatcher.
God, enemy's so good at the game. So good at the game. Even dropping the gold helm for the Gibraltar. This is going to be a really nice upgrade to the safety of Excedrin. We don't know the status of their backpacks just yet, but if you've got a gold bag and the gold helmet on your Gibby, you are, I was going to say good as gold, but it felt like a little too much.
No, it's good as gold.
It's good as gold? Yeah. We'll go with it.
Ooh, this is tough. This is a nasty, nasty zone to play. Now, obviously, you do have a bit of the corner of Stormcatcher still left and available to work with in terms of a high ground, but obviously, there's that tree out there directly. Oh, there you go. Perfect angle. There's this tree right here towards the left of bonus that a lot of teams tend to put themselves behind for a source of cover, so it's likely that we will see that high ground be utilized for some time period, but be quickly lost as this one tightens up. As a result, I mean, it is pretty free form of an end zone. I mean, this one gets close.
It really does. I'd like to see a team try and play the loot pills for the late game, but if you know what I'm talking about, the ones just off to the north of Stormcatcher are still not really available in the next circle just because of the disparity from the high to low ground. It's going to get very tricky to find even little bits of cover, and for the teams that are a little bit closer to Thunderwatch, I think that's the position that I'd much prefer right now. The further up high in the sky you are, the further north, and I believe it's northeast you are, the better.
See, I'm going to disagree with you here. I prefer the southwest. I love this cover provided right up here against the cliffside, and I think it's something that can extend. It definitely depends, though. I mean, we're both right in our own ways. The zone pull for 6 is going to be crucial here.
This is an interesting development, though. This is something that I hadn't even considered, that not one, but two teams are up on this high ground. Throws a wrench into things. Leaves this available for third parties, for chaos in this late game. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that we haven't seen that many Ashes just yet, but with so many horizons in the lobby, high ground may not be as inaccessible as you would think.
It may not be inaccessible, but it's still difficult to play here for Intel. They do not have an easy way to start an engage. Granted, could run this into the corner, maybe bait out the dome with the utilization of that defensive bombardment from the inside. Mooney playing that one out there. It could be just the 50-50 swing, right? Throw the singularity once you know that's down, and start with it.
Watch the kill feed right now because I believe that it was Vizio, one of the teams that was on top. So Vizio and Intel may be going at each other right now. Excedrin playing the loot pills down here by the bottom is what we called out earlier as a prime spot to play, but one that is an increasing risk of being shot at from this high ground. Vizio end up going down to Intel, and now we could see this lobby start to change in a really big way, Zephyr, because Intel have been lagging just behind Vizio for so long. That gap has continued to increase, and with a big game here, well, they can't take the lead. They can send a statement that they are not to be messed with.
But here's the problem. Bonus very quickly begins to put damage down on Excedrin. You've already lost Kimchi Lee. Cruisin able to find the battery available. His enemy is just trying to put any damage down to prevent the potential of a collapse here.
The high ground that we were talking about that really does punish this position. Intel, it looks like getting finished off right now as well. Taking a look at what's going down here. Impulse has no health left, and it's bonus that you mentioned earlier that come in for that cleanup. Sleepy Panda even going to pick up a Kraber, and from this high ground, a gun like this could be devastating in the next 30 seconds.
And the nice thing about this next zone is it does pull for a drop right in front of them. But meanwhile, certified BMers very quickly do find their relocation to the top of Stormcatcher. Now, bonus are quick to learn after the exchange is shared there between Intel and Vizio and drop almost immediately.
How many more teams will we see take up to this high ground? And how many more teams will we see punished for it? Certified Beamers have put themselves in a position where 3 different squads are looking at them, where they are attracting so much attention that the team underneath them is really not getting any. This enemy continues to lay down the hurt. Lee's been recovered, and Excedrin have equally got a shot at taking this game.
All right, that's a beautiful defensive bombardment there, playing off the back end of the drop from Stormcatcher. Meanwhile, bonus with that Kraber, making short work with a shot like that. Arcstar down, Wave on the low, playing the rocks on the side here. Just gotta need to get that reload, just gotta get that reset as Sleepy Panda finds the battery when necessary, and they're back behind the tree, but the zone keeps moving.
Gotta reload the Kraber, though. No shots in that. No secondary weapon is risky for bonus. There's just no time. There's just too much going on. Sleepy Panda goes down, and it's just Farmer Lucas left to clutch things up for bonus. Even he likely going to get noticed right now as Excedrin are starting to apply a little bit of pressure as well. Farmer Lucas has gotten that heal off. We're down to our top 4 squads, and Excedrin have the most space of them all. Look at the way this position paid off for them.
The pole is right on top of Excedrin here. Now, the problem is, though, who is going to take strides first here? We've got 4 squads left, 3 of them being the full force, all 3 members here. And for Excedrin, they're going to have to be dealing with both of them at the same time. Granted, the last time we saw Excedrin win was in a situation like this on Stormpoint where they held the ridge and were going against a full 1v1v1, I suppose.
12 shots left right now, and a knock comes through. Enemy just does not quit right now. This bow check could put an end to another squad, but a flank does change the game for Excedrin. They lose Lee, and enemy has to take to the skies alongside Cruisin to fend off this third party. The bow check is uninterrupted, no more, but enemy still styling around the outside. Does a good job of holding off certified Beamers, but it isn't for long long enough. Enemy does take down one. Beamers are forced to reset, but they have the effective help. Surely enemy is going to go down. Surely he is the one that gets third party. Excedrin finally get taken out, but that third party is coming for certified Beamers soon. We've got Chug Gunners running off on them. 3 members strong. Chug Gunners end up taking game 5.
We talk about the weakness of Chug Gunners on the back end of that game 4. They might have been listening, because very quickly do they collapse on that fight there. And I gotta say, Excedrin did everything they could possibly manage in a situation like that. It was a good position, but it was a position that warranted them being pinched to a much more aggressive degree in comparison to when we saw them win when they were on World's Edge. They didn't have the defensive ability to work with this time around. They didn't have the cover, and the catalyst that really set this one off was that drop from enemy onto Chug Gunners. That is seen. That is very clearly seen there, and they know for a fact the attention is split, and as a result, they full send it on that moment, and that is what led to their downfall.
Yeah, it was a very difficult thing for Excedrin to do, to manage both supporting enemy, being able to put themselves in a good position to win the game, and keeping this sort of third party at bay, if we can even call it that from such a distance. But I do think it is the most appropriate term, because of the way that endgame played out, and sort of the antithesis to our second game of the day, where Excedrin ended up taking it with control of the height. We saw this endgame play out totally differently, with a lot less waiting, a lot more run-in, gun it out, and Excedrin still do really well, despite the fact that they get taken down in that endgame. I want to, continue to applaud them and continue to hype up Chug Gunners as well, who had that big resurgence.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a fantastic success for them, kind of biding their time. Even though they were constantly pressured, we still do have to pay respect to the fact that they were able to defend that position out from whomever was coming out from the low ground to try to play right up against the cliffside there. So fantastic in that own regard.
Yeah, bonus also doing really well, standing out as they came up to wipe out the remainder of the Intel-Vizio fight. And Vizio going down to Intel, well, this may not have been the complete message that Intel wanted to send. They wanted, I'm sure, to take the win in this 5th game. Still ended up looking pretty darn good in that 3v3. And I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more... looking good in Game 5, and I'm hoping we get to see a little bit more of that in Game 6. Thank you for bearing with me, Zephyr. And so that I can recover, so I can get some more water, and so I can get ready for Game 6. We're going to toss this one over to Yeso, because I want to hear what he's got to say about Game 5.
So far, Storm Point belongs to the open squads tonight, as Chug Gunners able to grab the victory there in game number 5. And of course, a very familiar face that we here at Series E recognize. Clinical playing with the squad, and they look good into that 5th game. Only one more to go tonight. We'll have to see if maybe the open squads can close out with 3 straight wins, or if the partner teams can get back on the board. Let's check out our Apex champions here from game number 5. And it was a big performance from Squirrels for sure. 2 kills and 2 assists, almost 1900 damage, great damage as well from Mike Love there. Both of those players up over 1700. Everybody getting a couple of kills to their name, and Chug Gunners closing out strong. Also felt like, my favorite part of that game was getting a really good look at enemy for Excedrin. Seemingly couldn't miss with the bow check there. Couple of nice little highlight shots from enemy all throughout that game, and even in the late circle. His aim, very true. And while Excedrin not able to grab the win, another top 3 performance from them is some extra points on the board for the squad as they try to chase down Vizio at the top of our standings. Let's check out our Mobile One high performance moment here for game number 5, and it's going to be enemy with the bow check. Just clean shots here. Hits one initially, there's a second, looking for a third, and that bubble goes up, but the horizon tactical was a mistake, as that is the knock here. An enemy looks in for the push. The Valkyrie trying to get out of trouble, but will not find safety, and that was just so well played. Enemy landing those arrows from the bow check and able to knock a couple of those players, so looking really clean there. And Excedrin, we talked about Excedrin a lot last season. We talked about their consistency, but they never felt on a consistent basis to be a team that was threatening for the top of the standings That feels a lot different here tonight. And I talked to Excedrin prior to draft day, and they talked about how, they watched what Intel was able to do in the back half of the season and how they really played a lot looser and a lot more aggressive on open night, and they were hoping to take some pages out of that book here this season, and at the very least, early signs show they're doing a great job of doing that. So we'll see what where they're at on our Mobile One leaderboard when we come back, but we're going to a quick break right now. When we come back, the final game of the day here as we kick off Razer Week and Series E Season 5.
Welcome back, maidens and maidenless. We're about to make our way into the 6th game of Razer Week Open Night. My name is Dia. I am joined by Zephyr, and I looked to the correct side this time. So, Zephyr, let's take a look at those Mobile One leaderboards and see exactly how far Vizio is from making it to 100 points.
I gotta say, Vizio continuing to morbid out here, only 20 points away from a 100-point finish to finish off the first series of Series E Season 5 would be incredible with a triple-digit one.
It is a tall order for them, and I'm going to be keeping my eyes on these squads. But guess who else I'm looking at? Excedrin and Intel tied at 50 points right now. We have to call out that Excedrin started the day at the bottom, and now they're here. They got taken out so early in Game 1, and it speaks to the tenacity of this team that we saw in Game 4 in their bunker brawl that has brought Excedrin all the way to 2nd place right now, fighting to stay there against Intel, who are struggling for identity in this new season, but doing it so well.
And also to pay respect towards some of our open squads that have found success here. Obviously, bonus with their win, but Chug Gunners finally picking up one for themselves. And as you said before we went to break, a resurgence that has continued to push them in still a competitive state. So while technically the race for first place is likely over, that 2nd place position is well and more competitive for anybody out here.
If we could see any team take it away from a partnered squad, that would be terrifying. And to see which partnered squad ends up taking it, if one of them does, is equally as exciting, as it sets a precedent for this season. 6th game, though, as you know, starting right now. You see it on your screens. Let's let these partnered squads, let's let these open teams leave it all on the table and send themselves out on a win in Razer Week.
Now, it looks like officially we are going to be starting this lobby off with only 17 squads here. So I only bring that up because obviously it's not like anyone has just magically disappeared, Thanos snapped, vaporized before the start of this game, but it also means there's less KP on the board. Those are 9 potential points out of the 111 to 115 that you can accumulate across every team in a single match.
Vizio are just, oh, they're so stressed right now.
Yeah, those 9 points. I mean, they bite.
It's true. It's true. That's half the battle, quite literally. as we do get to see what the next ring will be, and the preceding ones become even more evident. That beacon building right in the center of second zone is going to be really highly prized by teams that do want to get inside of this circle early. And for those that do not, well, we've already got plenty of fighting going over at Barometer, so let's check out what Intel are doing over here. Spitty has already found purchase, and we saw the shield crack come in, but it's Impulse who takes up to the high ground, finally finding these last couple stragglers, but not getting any knocks just yet. James Fearless instead, the one that takes down Yogi.
No surprise there. James Fearless has been on his keys all day long. Mind you, Impulse from behind. Now forward with the EVA 8. One through the door. A single hit will do him in. Just got to crack this one open and then hit it out. Insanity eliminated down to 16. And Intel with 3 additional points to work with.
They didn't even get a chance to fight either. Insanity just got runned and gunned as fast as Intel could. They are setting up the pace for this game, and it's one that I'm hoping does not slow down despite the lower amount of teams in this lobby. Buff Pathfinder, however, taking a little bit of a different read on this game. They've swapped off the Pathfinder onto the Ash that we're seeing a surprisingly low amount of on Stormpoint when compared to how this season was closing off around Sweden.
Yeah, I think you bring up a fairly good point here, especially with the utilization of it being in high priority, right? I mean, it was heavy rotation, allowed you to kind of get out of some of the, disparaging situations regarding verticality, right? I mean, it's the only instant teleport that can actually work with height. But at the end of the day, I think teams are getting a better analysis of where they should set themselves up for a lot of these zones as they've begun to get at least more familiar with where the poles actually find themselves. And as a result, taking more of a kind of ride towards those heavy defensive legends has become more regular. Meanwhile, IM Armories could have let Reg get in there, but they're not going to do so. Lynxy is pressured back. Dome is down for a potential rotation. Might be able to find their way in, but this is risky.
This is terrifying, honestly, and I don't know what to do in this situation. All the way out here, the middle of nowhere by the armory, there is a nice sort of coincidental flank that gets found, taking down Plugged Cube, but it's still a 2 versus 1, and you'd still expect Buff Pathfinder to come out on top as they do. Reg end up going out, and on their way to the armory, they just never make it in the door.
And it's such a shame there because you have to treat those armories with more respect than that, especially in the early game when you've already been fighting that area for such a long period of time when we talk about Stormpoint there. So maybe a bit too greedy in terms of the rotation. Meanwhile, Nerf looking to greed out for their own rotation, albeit maybe going to approach this one with a little bit more tact. See the drop down from that redeploy. Now we're searching for the embers of where this team have left themselves.
Okay, so this is an interesting rotation from Nerf as well because they do have this next scan, so they're likely prioritizing playing some of the choke points that come up out of this north pad open ground. But there's so many ways to play from here that I'd be curious to see whether they take a more aggressive angle, whether they go for something like this armory fight, or if they go around. They don't have a car just yet. Do you have the time to grab it and put it on top?
Well, they definitely have Messiah on that horizon, which, by the way, an earlier point, I did not take that into account, is Horizon is good for kind of controlling those armories, right? Have the utilization of the grav lift. But as you can hear, Dia, we're not going to see it.
Oh, I was so
not
excited.
This time around.
I was so excited. Even EA was like, no, don't do that. They saw it coming, and the server, well, as you guys all can read, didn't end up making it. So we're not going to get to see that play. And more importantly, we're not going to see the rest of that game play out. Teams like Vizio will have maybe a second shot at collecting a few more kills this time around because they were getting off to a slow start, as we could already tell by the fact their names weren't showing up in the kill feed. But I'm not quite sure what'll be done because we were a little bit deeper into the game this time. So we'll wait for our updates from production and see where things go from there, Zephyr.
Well, with that being
It's time for Vizio to take the throne as we hit Storm Point once again. Reminder, Vizio is our one team 20 points away from that 100 break point. A record-setting first day of Season 5 is in their grasp. But right behind them, we've got Excedrin and Intel. Of course! Zephyr, how you doing? We've got a reboot going.
Good,
Are we ready
yeah.
to tackle Game 6 again?
Absolutely, and remember, as we get into this one, I do want to notify that, yes, you do see only 14 squads left. We let the game run for a little bit just to make sure that we weren't going to have a direct crash. Thankfully, with this reset, I see something that I absolutely love. Our first Southern pull of the night, albeit our last pull of the night.
I'm noticing that Intel are alone down there, by the way, so they've already cleared out the competition. Nobody else going to be challenging them over in Barometer. Vizio really the closest who could come down through Shipfall. And Buff Pathfinder back on that Pathfinder. Seem to have found the recipe for their success, and round the corner taking down one, making it a second soon. And now, in a 3 versus 1, have found themselves their first 3 points of the game.
And that is it for Intelligence, and it's gotta feel bad. It has been a rough night for Intelligence through and through, always dropping out within our first round here, unable to really accrue the points. But hey, that's what open nights are for. It puts you up against some of the most talented players out, and now we'll see the fights continue against some of those same players here for Buff Pathfinder. They've already dropped one, but very quickly does Bursty provide damage of their own. It's a good rip, but they still need more damage down to the low ground to finish their first own drop. Mind you, Bloodcube has found one of their own. It is just a 1v2 situation now.
It's good stuff from Bursty, though, to be able to finish off that kill. And just like that, 2 different squads have fallen to Buff Pathfinder. You've got to imagine there's no 4th party coming in here. They just got 6 points. And there is a 4th party. Tyson now, what a fight.
Tyson here, you'll be able to hear him clicking and clacking right above there, but the drop from Joey is already impressionable enough. Plug Cubed officially fully eliminated there, and now chasing this one out from afar. The grab lift to take them towards the roof, the Singularity to pull them down, but it doesn't quite get what they need, and that's another knock on. And the BM here from Oxy.
Oxy Ares finds the wingman shot, finds the kill, and even sends a message home with Noah. Tyson are here to stay. They take out the majority of Buff Pathfinder, but I believe there's one more member out there, Zephyr.
Yes. With complete certainty, Buff Pathfinder are still alive, but likely to rat out the rest of this game, as I don't think Tyson will be leaving anytime soon here.
No, this is really good for them. Bursty, unfortunately, all alone on the aquatic fuse, is going to have a difficult time getting the most out of this legend pick when really unable to engage in any 3v3 fights confidently. However, if we're thinking about 3v3 fights, my mind has got to be on Vizio and what on earth they can find. We've already seen 6, 7, 8 potential points for this squad go away on the opposite end of a map. They need 20 points to make it to the 100 mark, and right now it just doesn't seem like any are coming their way.
It's definitely tough, especially with the position that they've put themselves in here for the late game. It's going to be a while till we see any team breach this current position. And you have to remember, even if you place first, you still need to be taking down at least 3 and +1 squads if you want the 20 points that puts you out on top. Granted, though, Spectre, very close by. This could be potentially the start or the end of Vizio's journey, but they know they're there.
Wow.
They see them.
I'm surprised. It seemed like Spectre were actually playing peekaboo and weren't quite spotted, but at the end, Shield Bat's going to go off for Gordo, and even that may not be enough to prevent the push. Holding on to high ground, Vizio have the advantage, but the Arcstars could change all of that. Watch how Brandon ends up playing it, as Burton will need to retake the height shortly to keep Vizio in the driver's seat. If they can hold onto this whole southern edge, the power they will have in the late game is immense.
Mind you, a redeploy coming through here from Team Razer. They have no idea they're about to land right in the fray.
Already Blake going below half health, and Box at T with the ult chugging isn't going to be able to get out. It's Blitz that finds 1 knock, so that's 1 point knocked down in the favor of Vizio, and maybe a second, especially if Nades gets taken down on an attempted exit. This is a rough spot for Razer, though. We already know that they were having a tough game, and it gets so much tougher.
Vizio continuing to find more. Brandon Kane here putting pressure where it counts onto the Spectre team. They take the entirety of that fight. It's a full 3v3 of success here. Now Razer looking for their revive onto Box of T while they still have the opportunity.
Those 4 points are huge, and there might just be 2 more in it, because it looks like Vizio kept on their toes. They realized what Razer were up to. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points picked up by Vizio, and that's exactly the kind of action they need.
5 points for Vizio, 85 points confirmed here, 15 to go with placement not even on our minds. Well, well within their rights to start off the season strong with a 100+ point win.
Let's keep our eyes on the way that the rest of the partner squads play this out, because Nerf have definitely sniffed out what was going on just over to their south. We know that Intel will be itching to get in on the action as well, coming for Barometer so nearby. And with an end game that's starting to stack up in a relatively open area, I'm really liking the position that especially Nerf have found themselves in.
One thing we still have to keep track of is the fact that second place is still very up for grabs for any one of the teams, from all the way down from second to potentially even ninth with both Pathfinders. Granted, they're down to a ratting member, but still, it's just a theoretical here. So for Excedrin, Intel, bonus, and Nerf, they're all potentially in the right area to take away what is our other prized area.
Yeah, I was going to say, did we mention that there's prizing, by the way? Because it's all been about start the season like this, start the season like that, prove yourself here, prove yourself there, but there's actual money on the line as well, and Nerf are trying their best to stay in grasp of it. They already found a really nice beam going up the gravity lifts, and Messiah was able to get away relatively unscathed. Nerf hold on to the high ground, but are they pushing this fight a little bit further? Now going over to the edge. Turns is the one leading the charge. Force played anchor in the back, keeps the rest of his team safe, and after a little bit of touch and go, it seems like both teams back off, not wanting to drop out of those top 9.
Ooh, and Intel here. This is such a shame. They start out the lobby without the full force here. No impulse to work with, and at this point, you know for a fact Excedrin's at least the full 3-man.
You know, it's true. It's true. If anybody can 2v3 consistently, it's got to be Intel. You remember Fearless and Mooney from Game 1? You'll recall exactly what was going on there.
That's true.
So I saw,
I'm not worried.
I saw they were there, and I was like, all right, well, it's just another squad, right? Surely this works out for them. Give no respect, however, hot on the trail of another squad is going to give a little bit more of a difficult time, especially with how relentless a Bloodhound team can be. It's not just Optimal Ambition running this anymore. I think a lot of teams have really come to realize that, especially on open nights, Bloodhound can be the answer to a lot of the questions of how do we take advantage of this lobby.
That's very interesting. I mean, obviously, it gives them the awareness that they need to potentially kind of collapse on a squad, but I feel like a really well-informed squad playing out the endgame doesn't need the Bloodhound. But Vizio's running it, so I'm wrong.
Vizio, I mean, they're just trying to collect as many kills as possible, or at least that's what you think. Their positioning feels a little bit weird for that, so I'm hesitating on actually committing to the statement, but with the way that they're playing right now, I don't know. I'm going to give it the next minute and 30 seconds, the next couple chunks out from Blitz, and see how things work.
Bonus is officially eliminated at the hands of Intel. Mind you, James Fearless putting in the dirty work, even though there are 2-man. So Intel staying well within the competitive range up against squads like Excedrin for that second place finish.
No way is there a squad out here. What on earth is this? This reminds me of the games that we played together, just wrapping around the side of the map and having another team notice that we're there. Vizio do exactly that, and it's so difficult to crest around these rocks.
Mind you, I'm going to start calculating out things like the second place finish, like the third place finish for Vizio, because if they keep racking up kills like that, it does not matter. This is Team Intel coming off the back end of their recent fight here against Bonus. Dome down, the potential setup sung with the bow check. It's only a quick drop necessary.
Get him. It's expiring. Nice shot. Good stuff. Sung is so cracked, actually. I'm glad that we're getting to see the bow check get a little bit of love in these past couple games, but nasty. 2 down already and taking even more height. We're gonna run out of ammunition, my friend. That's the one problem with the bow, is that there's not a whole lot of ammo lying around for it.
8 shots left there, and I'm pretty sure he lost the official full member down in that moment, wasn't able to get the revive off, so likely another kill secured for Vizio. I believe 6 potentially. Borton, Sung, the rest of the roster, they're going to go for the full collapse.
All right, well, we've got a 3 versus 2, so if Vizio are feeling confident, as it appears they are, that bubble's going to get forced, and we're going to see another team leaving us. Intel go out, and that's another full squad that gets taken down by Vizio, though I'm not sure if they split kills with anyone else.
Now this is tough here. Excedrin, this is the big question. If they're still within this lobby, they're already at a major point advantage that could net them that second place victory, as we've seen bonus, Chug Gunners and Certified BMers put in such a poor position. Nerf, though, still a big question. Meanwhile, Give No Respect, pressured on the low ground here. How does Highlight not take the damage necessary to go down? I'll never know, but they still potentially find that. No!
So close, but Tyson from behind was the deciding factor. They've come in for the third party. They're looking for a bit of KP themselves to start off the season by accruing those points that will be so important at the end. And right now, there is just not enough of a squad in front to stop them. Horizon going up in the sky will very quickly be taken out of it, ushered by a barrage of bullets. And Tyson proceed with the utmost confidence, still facing down the high ground, but they do not bat an eye. Look at the beams from Z Davis.
Oh, and that dome is down, but it's got an access point for those Arc Stars. The zoning control is absolutely crucial here as Davis rolls up. Joey will fall here. It is a disadvantage in terms of numbers, but the PK makes short work of potentially this entire fight. 85-18, certified BMers eliminated.
Z Davis goes crazy in that bubble fight, with Joey being picked up by Oxy Aries. Tyson are in the driver's seat, and man, it looks good right now. They've got a lot of height, but what they don't have, Zephyr, is a lot of time. 30 seconds left until this ring closes. They gotta heal up and get out of here.
Oxy Aries should have the redeploy available for them to find their way over the cliffside. The question is where they land. I mean, that is a big issue to look at here. Now, granted, now that certified BMers are officially down, and Give No Respect, and Chug Gunners, and bonus, this is going to come up to Excedrin, I believe, versus Nerf for that second place finish.
I'm really sweating because we just closed, or we started closing rather, on round 3. And we've got 5 teams left. This is not your typical game of competitive Apex Legends. We've had a lot of build up to this, and now it feels like everybody's just so eager to fight. Even Sung right now, having recovered a few of the arrows that he sent out into the ether, is continuing to rain down fire, but is still running relatively low.
Would you like to purchase a Saldia?
It's kind of ridiculous, right?
I think this is funny, don't get me wrong, but I casted a game where Bryn from Invictus Gaming, the EMEA Invictus International Gaming, he dropped like 12 batteries and then like 60 cells in one building. And it was a practice lobby, but it was still insane. He didn't think anyone was going to see it, but I happened to be in the spectator slot, and I took a picture.
Nice.
That's exactly what that reminds me of right there.
You know, it's a little bit of a dragon's lair, I guess.
Exactly.
Watching
the
Horde. Watch the top of the screen, top left, actually, to be specific, for where this zone's going to go. And watch to see if Sung goes down. Oh my God! Is this the? This could be the fatal flaw for Vizio, to lose Sung like this. If he gets thirsted, there's no chance that you get your Bloodhound back up.
No, none at all here, and they're not even expending the dome. They said, buddy, you're gonna have to crawl. Oh, Lee has extended himself forward there.
Watch this kill feed, see what ends up going down with our downed member of Vizio. With Cruisin sitting all the way out here, contributing to how quickly that knock ended up going down. We've still got a ways to go until we get into this next ring, one that is largely open. Vizio have control over the buildings just ahead of Excedrin right now. That is huge for Vizio.
Just barely there, but now it is literally 4 of our partnered squads. Nerf, Tyson, Excedrin, Vizio. Vizio on the hunt for their 100-point game here. Excedrin and Nerf neck and neck for second place. And Tyson looking to prove that this day wasn't a loss. And even as a new squad coming out of the backwoods as redeemed, they still can compete against the best, the tested of Season 4.
This is an excellent start to our 5th round of Series E. It is just incredible to watch these squads, these storylines developing before us. As every squad's going to be forced into an even tighter enclosure. And now the pace of this lobby has been a blitz, but now it really does start to reward those with a little bit more patience. Those teams that will sit back and let other squads do their work for them, that will value cover over the sprint through open ground. And Nerf are doing just that, keeping their eyes on the big threat, the big trouble spots that they could be attacked from.
Now, here's the thing. Obviously, everyone's watching for the rotation from Tyson because they still have yet to really get the full collapse into zone. They've got themselves set up nicely below that bridge, and that's going to allow them to perform going into round 5 here. But obviously, when we talk about God spots, you have to look at Vizio. I mean, they hold the only building control that is available in this final zone. Look at that.
Sung's still up on the roof with the bow check as well. He is keeping an eye on exactly what you mentioned, how much they can abuse that high ground. Gravity cannon held by Nerf is also a really nice spot to be, but that's illegal. That is not the pull that anyone but Vizio was hoping for. Every other squad in the lobby saw that and groaned.
They gotta move here, and you can see it already taking place here. The drop was found from enemy onto Messiah, but it is a 2v2 singularity down. This will pressure Nerf, potentially give them the opportunity for a reset, but they split, and as a result, now it is a 2v1. Cruzen now left to defend for the entirety of the Excitement squad, and that fatal flaw might be the end of this roster on their lengthy hunt for second.
We gotta watch how this goes down. We already know that we had Vizio collecting at least 1 kill from the downfall of Excedrin. Enemy gets thirsted, and that's a point in favor of Nerf. But Excedrin's journey stopping here is massive as they were trying to break that tie for second. Nerf now on the come up, and we'll see how many points, how much work they're able to put in near the end. Tyson have managed to grab this building, though, taking it away from the Vizio power point, and maybe just turning it into a win of their own.
Yeah, looks like Vizio was on that alternative building over there towards the west, and they still do hold it, but look at how Sung and Thornton have positioned themselves slightly on the outside. Now, I love that, utilizing that mobile respawn beacon as a source of cover, knowing that Vizio is directly outside of you towards your west. Granted, still have to defend against a plethora of squads, as you're going to have both Vizio and Nerf now cresting your sight lines here once this zone closes in.
Indestructible cover being laid down. The foundations are so good for Tyson to be able to start this season off with at least 1 win. Vizio waiting in the wings, and Nerf from this high ground. They've got to be the focus of Vizio right now because they are the biggest threat to our top squad.
For Nerf, this is a huge problem. They don't have many areas to work with. They're going to try to lay this one down with the ordnances and run shore up along the side here for Vizio. Granted, those ordnance and damage do provide push Sung back.
This is big.
This might be the opening that Nerf needs.
Look at the Arc Star, though. The frags are causing so much trouble. Messiah loses shield, loses shield. First one loses his life before they can even touch Vizio. And Messiah right now on 1 HP is standing in between Vizio and a clean squad wipe. Tyson are starting to come up on this. We're into our top 3 squads, and Vizio now have much bigger problems as Tyson are knocking on the door. Nerf go out. It's our last 3v3, but have Vizio had the time? Do they have the health bars? Down drops Blitz, but he ends up picking up 1 before he goes down. The Arc Star is huge. Vizio could do it. Up through the side, Oxyaris has found a flank. He could reverse the tide of battle. A 54 chunk is massive, but it's not enough as Sung turns towards him. Oxyaris is the last one alive, and he cannot get inside the building. Blitz gets taken down, but still, even so, is providing so much value, and there's nothing trapping Vizio inside anymore. They are playing patiently. They are picking up as many kills as they possibly can to send themselves to those 100 points.
At this point, Oxy would have to pull out a miracle to come out alive in this 1v2 situation, but Vizio have it all planned for themselves. Oxy above towards that second floor, but the beam still coming through. That car is shredding, but it only takes him to half of the available Red Evo left alive. They want to make sure they take down this Gibby. They don't want to leave anything up to chance, but they're in such a good position. It has to be a Vizio win. It has to be.
You've got to imagine it. Right now, they're playing with such control. Oxyaries drops down onto the low ground, and we're going to see the end of a Valkyrie here. The inevitable Vizio win comes for us all, and it caps us off for our 6th game of the day and the start of Series E Season 5.
Vizio, the winners of Season 4, albeit a different roster, still living up to the name. And Dia, while I haven't seen the Mobile One leaderboard, I've been doing the math all game long. I know for a fact that that was a triple-digit finish. We're going to have to see once we come back, obviously, but that is an insane start to Season 5. That is a statement.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous way for this game to close. The only way that Vizio could have achieved this momentous task was to find themselves that win and the kills, and when it was really necessary, they dialed it in. I love that this name has staying power too, because we saw so many incredible moments from teams like Buff Pathfinder right here on your screen that could have very easily taken games, taken fights, taken the day, but the Vizio name is here to stay in Series E.
And something that I think is absolutely crucial, especially towards the end of that game, that I think is really where this one comes to collapse, is obviously Vizio very, very early on take towards that God spot, and they just hold and retain it, taking out squads like Spectre, like Intel, and many others as they continue to rack up KP. But the craziest thing is in their final moments, they go right up against Nerf. Right? And Nerf takes it to them. They put pressure down. They actually level out with an insane amount of damage. They lose the fight here, but it's the lack of aggression from Tyson that comes back to bite them. And this was a huge question we had earlier on in the night. I talked about it. I said, when you come in open night, when you're that new squad, you need to just get out there. You need to send it pedal to the metal and just get the job done. Prove yourself while you still have a chance before pro nights work around. And Tyson are still trying to find that identity for themselves, that level of comfortableness, right? At the end of the day, they let too much time pass. Vizio got the reset, and even though they tried to force their way in, it was too late.
Yeah, it was a very difficult way to see that slip out of Tyson's fingers, and it speaks to the experience of Vizio and that sort of green aspect to to Tyson, especially in this new season where going up against partner squads isn't something that everyone is used to. It has been a really long day for us, though, and I do wonder, Zephyr, whether we'll get the chance to see those Mobile One leaderboards at the end as this reward for all these squads, both partnered and not, that played out through 6 games.
Well, with that being said, we're going to toss this to a short break, and when we come back, well, first, let's toss to a short break and hear what Yeso has to say. I forget that this man's a big brain now here, providing some analysis behind the desk. So when we come back, we'll obviously have not just that, but also the Mobile One leaderboard. So stick around.
Big finish there from Vizio. Not only do they bookend the first half, they bookend the day. 3 total wins from the squad, and while it did look a little tense there in the late game, Tyson biting off a little more than they could chew, and Vizio able to hold their ground, grab the win in game number 6. Hell of a finish from that squad, and it looks like, while we haven't seen the Mobile One leaderboard yet, while the faces may be different, the team name atop our first pro night of the season stays the same as Season 4, and it's going to be Vizio here with a hell of a performance front to back. Let's take a look at their showing in the last game of the night. We'll look at that champion squad here for game number 6. Of course, it is Vizio, and great numbers all across the board. Good damage from all 3 players. Great kill participation as well. 5 kills and 3 assists for Fortin, 6 and 3 for Blitz, Sung with 2 and 7. So everybody a part of at least 8 kills there. They finish with 13 total for the squad, so that's another 25-plus point game. Hell of a showing there from Vizio. Let's take a peek at our final Mobile One high-performance moment of the night. It isn't a Vizio, though. We're going to take a look at Tyson because this was just so well played from Z Davis here. Of course, they weren't able to grab the win But this was just such a well-played fight from Tyson, and specifically from Z Davis, as they push into the bubbles that go down here. Great poke from mid-range here with the flatline, tosses in the Arc Stars, and the bubbles are down, and now Z Davis is ready. He's got the PK ready, empties the clip there, and look here. 1, 2 shots, there's a knock. 3, there's another knock. 4 landed, and let's make it 5. And the finish with the flat line. Z Davis so clean inside of the bubble, just could not miss with that PK, and it gets Tyson a win and some very big points there in the final game of the night. So Tyson seemingly getting kind of better as the night went on and finished strong despite not being able to grab the win. They still look really good in game number 6. So Vizio with the win, Tyson with a highlight play, and plenty more coming this season. Of course, do want to remind you folks, if you didn't see the tweet we had earlier tonight, Pro Night for tomorrow is canceled just due to some of the server issues. Pro Night is not going to happen tomorrow, but we will be looking forward to things coming back very soon. But let's check out our final Mobile One leaderboard for tonight. We'll pull it up for you here, and there it is. Vizio hitting the triple digits, and interestingly enough, Excedrin and Intel both tied at 55. I would love to get an update from production here. Who took the tiebreaker there? Word has it, it's Excedrin. So Excedrin takes second place on the night. Intel in third. Nerf in fourth. And bonus round out the top 5. So that is a very fun night here to kick off the season. And Vizio following up. You know, hey, Vizio jersey behind me here because of Season 4 Team Vizio. They're now Team Esports Arena. And it looks like Void, who have now become the new Team Vizio, picking up where their former squad left off, and it's a hell of a showing here. Folks, that's going to do it here for our first open night of the season. Hell of a way to kick off Season 5 here of Series E Apex Legends. It was so much fun to be here with you all tonight. Big shout out to Zephyr and Dia. They were fantastic on the cast all throughout tonight. Make sure to follow them on all their socials and keep tabs on those boys because they are incredible at what they do, and you'll probably be hearing a lot more from them throughout this season. My name is Ye, so it's been a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. For myself, the entire live broadcast crew, and everybody here at Esports Arena, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We'll see you again next time.